Meeting to order, please. Tuesday, November 16, 6 p.m.
Roll call. Councilmember Bertani?
Here.
Councilmember Moy?
Here.
Councilmember Panduro?
Here.
Councilmember Tim?
Here.
Councilmember Tonneson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Vaccaro?
Here.
And Mayor Price.
Here.
Thank you.
And we do have a quorum. And the invocation this evening will be led by Travis Air Force Base Chaplain, Colonel Stephen Richardson, sir. And thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. I'm honored to be able to pray for you today. I invite you to bow your heads and pray with me. Almighty God, as we endeavor to serve our community, help us to serve you faithfully and to strengthen others as you have strengthened us. Lord, we pray that when we have food, you'd help us to remember those who are hungry. And when we have family and friends, that you'd help us to invite those who are walking alone. That when we have warm homes, that you would help us to work for those who are homeless. When our faith is strong, help us to serve those who don't know you and your love. And when we enjoy the natural beauty of the state of California, help us to see your glory more clearly than ever before. Lord, as we just celebrated Veterans Day, we are so thankful for the airmen and the soldiers and the sailors and the Marines and the Space Force Guardians who have faithfully served the United States of America. We are thankful for every drop of blood that has been shed in her behalf, for every young man and young woman who stepped forward to defend our freedom, for every bit of right that digs in and braces itself against every bit of wrong. We give thanks, Lord, for their sacrifice, for their commitment to helping others. And we ask, Lord, for your special protection and blessing upon each and every one of those military members and their families. And finally, Lord, we pray for all who serve, whether in the military or the police or the fire department or any kind of public service or public office. Lord, we pray that you would walk beside them to comfort them, that you would walk above them to watch over them, that you would walk behind them to keep them safe, that you would walk before them to show them the way, and that you would dwell within them to give them your peace, which passes all understanding. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I would be proud to please join me in saluting our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we begin the redistricting public hearing, please. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Item 1, public hearing number 3 regarding redistricting city council district boundaries. And our presenter is Deputy City Clerk Amber Alexander.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have Robert McIntyre here from NDC, and he is going to start the presentation for our draft map that we've received.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. It's an honor to be here this evening on the third of 4 steps through this process of adopting your revised election map sequence. Very briefly, I know that you as electeds have gone through this process now a second time, so you're old hat, as we would say, at the process, but we want to make sure that we're bringing the community along in the process with us. And so here you see the process that's happened up until the last meeting. That includes when data was released by the feds and from California, and the fact that you really jumped on right on the back of that release of the data with your process. And so you had a community workshop on October 7th. I know a couple people showed up to that, and they had the opportunity and the ability to draw and submit maps. They chose not to. And so tonight on November 16th, we have the first post-draft hearing. And because no community submitted maps, NDC has drawn a map for your consideration, but we're also going to talk about that in reference to the map that's currently in place. At the conclusion of my presentation, you'll have the ability to take input from the community. And if so directed, NDC will take that input to draw more maps if that's the council's will, to bring back for the January 18th presentation. If any community members want to submit a map in time for that next meeting, they need to do so by January 4th. That would be the deadline for NDC to be able to process those maps, ensure they're legally compliant, and give an analysis to the council in time for the next meeting. And of course, we want to make sure that this process is completed before April 17th. I won't spend a lot of time going over this because I know you've done it twice at the last two meetings and you have a very big agenda tonight. But it's just for anybody who does decide they want to draw maps after tonight, these are the criteria you want to use if you're going to draw some maps. So making sure that you first and foremost have those balanced maps, population balanced. You follow the federal and state criteria and recognize they go from most strict on the left to least strict on the right. And so you have to follow on the left. You need to use as many of the guidelines in the middle, and the guidelines on the right are a choice. Talking about the map that's currently in place, one of the things we have to do is look at, during the last process, you all selected map 103 and so we want to look at what does the 2020 census mean for the existing boundaries. And so here what we see is that you had roughly 120,000 people in your census, and this was early estimated data. You'll see on the next map 201, it's actually 120,000 and change. So this is early estimates because these numbers were pulled in the early part of October. There's not a big enough change to redo this, but what's important to recognize is that if you look at that third row, it says population deviation, it's 31%. And so this map couldn't be legally readopted because the deviation between the highest populated district and the most underpopulated district is over 10%. And so it would fail that federal criteria of population balance. That doesn't mean it's a bad map. Your population shifted. It just has. That's why we do this every 10 years. And so we wanted to show you and your community that you did at least examine what you had selected previously. And so here's the map, and your staff has done a great job of managing the city's website about this process, both the last process and the current process. And so you can find a copy of this map and all the statistics on the city's website, and the districting website. So with in mind what we have, let's talk about the submitted proposal. So this is map 201, drawn by National Demographics Corporation, because as I said, we didn't receive any outside submissions. And the purpose of this map is not to just nail it perfect the first time. Occasionally it happens, occasionally we draw a map and it's just perfect how it is, but it's really a map intended to spur conversation, both by your community and by the council. So I'll be taking notes during the public hearing and in your comments after, and if there's direction at the end to draw a new map based on those comments, happy to do so, to bring it back for the next meeting. Looking at the statistical information for this map, one of the things you saw, and you'll see in following subsequent slides, is that the distribution, the ethnic distribution within your community it's spread out really, really nicely. And so you don't have these super high concentrated pockets of one group or another where people are self-segregating. It's quite uniform throughout. And so what we see when we look at that, your total population of 120,178 people, this map has the map 201 has a population deviation of 5.6%. You see that when we look at your total Latino or Hispanic population, throughout the entire city, it's 31% of your population. We can draw Council District 2 and Council District 5 in this map that have just shy of 50% Latino populations based on that total population. And And so while we couldn't get a majority Latino district or a majority Asian or African American district, every district within your city is a majority minority district. And so, to the extent that historically marginalized groups have the ability to collaborate, they will still have the ability to pick a person of their choosing, to elect a person of their choosing. So this is basically showing where different concentrations of different ethnic groups within your community live. And you notice you don't see a lot of red, and you even see very little yellow. And what that means is, like with your Latino community, is it's quite spread out throughout town. And that's why you don't see these, where I can't draw one Latino district with like 70%, because I would really have to go out of my way to draw a really ugly looking district to do that, and it would violate some of those tenets of drawing maps that we talked about on the prior slide. Similarly with the Asian American population, very spread out around town, and the African American community here within town. So recognizing that you don't have these just small pockets of very dense populations within each of your protected class communities, that's why the ethnic makeup of each of the 6 council districts is so stable across all of them. And so tonight, what we're hoping to hear from, not only in reference to map 201 that we just showed you, but even there's still time for conversation around the concepts of neighborhoods and communities of interest. So recognizing that some people may want to talk about what makes their neighborhood unique and why it should be kept together, or communities of interest, why they should be kept together, and to the extent that might influence a change in the way the map's drawn, we'd love to hear that. The council has made some drawing tools available, and they're on the redistricting website. So if somebody does want to submit that, their own version of a map, like I said, by January 4th, they can do so. Those tools are on the redistricting website. We will, if there are more submitted, more than just the one, then we would come back and review those with the electronic viewer, because it allows us to do different overlays and look at many, many maps very, very quickly. So that would be a tool that we'd bring back to the next meeting if there's more than one map. And so with that, we want to make sure the community is aware of the website for redistricting, and of course how they can submit their plans. And you would submit those to districtelections@fairfield.ca.gov. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, and I will now open the public hearing. Anyone choosing to speak on this item should do so now. Madam Clerk,
I do
if you
have
would,
2
please.
cards. First is Anna Patero.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I would like to speak against this map for several reasons. I live at the ranch, and I'm looking at the numbers here. For District 1, it's going to be 223, and the difference is 609 more people in District 2 and 223 in District 1. They're going to develop Nelson Hill. There are going to be more homes there. Why don't you use that development and move that to District 1 and leave the ranch alone in District 2 and leave the ranch alone in District 1? We've already developed relationships in that area, and I think we should stay there. All of our children go to school there. They go to now the Monday they go to Cordelia Hills, they go to Oak Brook. So all of our students who live there go to Cordelia Hills. I think we should stay in District 1. When Nelson Hill gets developed, move that into District 2. Thank you very much, and that's my, and in addition to that, we don't get a vote. If we move to District 2, we don't get a vote next year. So those are 2 reasons why I think we should leave the districts the way they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I agree with Anna.
And our next speaker, Nora Dyson.
Mayor Price, City Council members, city staff, and residents, I echo the comments of Anna. We have worked together and developed relationships with the residents at the ranch, and I'm talking about Cordelia and Green Valley, and we feel like one community. It really feels very wrong to tear them away from our district. We'd like for them to remain in District 1. And also, like she said, why do they get to be skipped over twice for voting for a city council member? That just seems very unfair. So I request that you can add Nelson Hill to District 2, that's fine, but leave the ranch with District 1, where we have been acting, communicating, cooperating as one community for many, many, many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nora.
Does anyone else want to speak on this item? And then Brian, is there anyone on Zoom?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll go ahead and ask our members on Zoom. If you'd like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand feature and to signify that you'd like to speak. Okay, we do have a speaker, Edward Russell Jr. Please stand by.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Edward, you should be on.
Outstanding. So my question is, the uneducated white folks in the audience, I was wondering if one of the I don't even know, the people that have a heartbeat blood in them on this board, explain the difference between what you guys are calling redistricting and gerrymandering, because I'm lost. Sounds like you're trying to make it so it works for you. Maybe you can explain to the people that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have no further requests to speak at this time.
Thank you, Brian.
Did you submit a request to speak card? No, I didn't, but I got a little bit of good news. Okay, fill the card out after you speak, please.
All right.
After you speak. I'll fill it out for you.
I'm wasting time. Hey, I got good news. They're cleaning up the Pacific garbage patch. The bad news is that the majority of that trash comes from creeks. So I'd like to do better stewardship of our creeks here. But the Pacific garbage patch is getting cleaned up, and that's a good thing.
Thank you. And are there any other speakers on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Move on to council reports, please. Mr. City Manager, would you like to begin?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I think you had some council members who wanted to be heard on this issue before you close it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Tim, please.
Thank you. District 1 is going to be my district if I end up running. And I agree, Nelson Hill still is in the county. It's actually not in the city. But I can tell you that the ranch is an integral part of Cordia, Green Valley. And it makes more sense to me, instead of having that little linear, probably down Cordia Road, that you chop it off even east of what I assume is Nelson Hill, and you keep them all together. I'm sure it'll bounce District 2 probably farther east and maybe a little north, but I think it's contiguous because they're communities of interest, whether it's the ranch and basically across the freeway. But the speakers are right in that their children go to school there, they do have a relationship there, and it's all part of Cordia, Green Valley. So however we can do that to the demographer and get rid of that little line that all of a sudden blossoms out. Got it? Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
What he said.
Okay. Councilwoman Panduro, would you like to give your report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I know we have a big meeting, so I just wanted to just touch real quick on and thank first and foremost Fairfield PD. We had our first Latino community forum, and what that is to build relationships between the police department and the Spanish-speaking community that we have here in Fairfield. And it was held about 2 weeks ago, and about 18 to 20 individuals from the community showed up, which was fantastic. I walked away just really excited about this this new program and we're going to be doing, I think, in other communities as well, with other communities as well. And so it is a really great way to just build community, build relationships. And my mom was there as one of the participants, and she was just so excited because we've been here our entire lives, and for her to walk away from that and say, Mija, like, we've lived here our entire lives and we've never had this within our community, and she's just so excited. So thank you. And I just, special shout out to, you know, Sergeant Pedro Arroyo, Captain Dan Marshall, Lieutenant Matt Thomas, Officer Jennifer Cruz Rios, and Dispatcher Gabby Lopez, because they were all integral in getting that started. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Tonneson, please.
Yeah, I'll be very brief, Mayor. We had the 40th anniversary of the mall was last weekend, and there was the majority of us attended. It was very well attended, and it's just a blink of the eye. 40 years has gone by, because I was a Army High student, and Gary Filati was the teacher, and we all got to see the plans, and it seemed like it was yesterday. So there you go, 40 years, Solano Mall.
Councilman Tim, please.
Yeah, and real briefly, and Chaplain, I appreciate your comments and in the prayer with the parade, but I wanted to give a shout out, and Mr. City Manager, is this the first time Parks and Rec has taken over this?
Well, no,
Veterans Day. Yeah.
some of them have been here. This is Christina's and my first time with that, but of course, I didn't do anything. Christina led that team, and this is her first time
Well,
doing that.
and that's where I was going. I just wanted to give a shout out to Christina and her team, the police department, the fire department, everybody that was there. It was terrific. It absolutely was terrific, and we'll get parking better next year, but I did want to recognize Park and Rec and just say thank you. So,
Thank you. Councilman Moy, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to pass tonight because we have a long agenda.
Councilman Bertani, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be very brief as well. I just want to remind everyone that our Clergy Action Network, the Fairfield CAN team, is going to be meeting on November 23rd at the PAL Center. So Chief Cantrell, thank you for helping us to get that organized. This is the organization comprising the faith community, senior pastors in the faith community who are working with the city and with our public safety personnel to help build bridges in this community and make sure that we're serving the populations that need our service with the very best care that we can provide them. And I also want to thank Chaplain Richardson, who has been attending the Fairfield CAN meetings faithfully, and he helped us realize that one of the things that we need to focus on with Fairfield CAN is how we can help to reintegrate our young servicemen and women back home after they've gone on a mission to protect our safety. So we tentatively have an event set in January of 2022 whereby the Fairfield CAN members will be going out to the base to begin building relationships with our servicemen and women, so that, you know, it's not a parade, it's not a potluck, although we might eat, right? But it's about building the relationships that help us to understand the needs of our servicemen and women. We want to be there for them. We are there for them. So that's set for January. Welcome, Colonel Simmons. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. That's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor, please.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome, everybody. I'll keep mine really brief. Yeah, the Veterans Day Parade was definitely a great event. Good job in the city. I know there were a few street closure glitches. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, for getting back to me about that. But overall, it was a great time, and I appreciate everybody coming out. And that's my report.
And I should like to report with a big smile on my face that the Veterans Day Parade and concert were just absolutely outstanding for a variety of reasons. But let me acknowledge the wing commander, Colonel Corey Simmons. Would you come up, sir? And we want to thank you. Big round of applause for your leadership, sir, and also the fact that the president of the Rose Bowl Parade was there, and he was there. And Colonel, would you mind explaining to our citizens in Fairfield why he was there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And it's funny that you say that because one of my directors of public affairs, Ms. Tanya Rastner, is with us. And the reason that they were there is basically because of her. The Public Affairs for Air Mobility Command is we're really good at what we do. And part of that is actually the Air Force Band of the Golden West associated with Travis. And they have been selected to be able to participate in the Tournament of Roses Parade this year. And so one of those bands will be one of our very own, so Fairfield will be represented. And to get to sit with that man for a few minutes and be able to talk about the pageantry that is the Tournament of Roses and to get to be a part of that, I thought that was really, really cool. And many of us ended up with little roses on our uniform, I think, that day. So, but it was really good. And it's just a testament to Tanya's team and all those folks and those musicians. If you got to see them at the parade, you kind of know how good they are. And it's just yet another opportunity for them to shine. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation by the Chief Master Sergeant, the featured speaker at the concert that was going on inside the theater. So thank you, and we salute you for all that you do to make Fairfield the center of Air Mobility Command. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Mr. City, report, please.
I don't have anything for this evening. You all do have the weekly. If there's any questions, I'll stand for those.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, your report, sir?
Thank you. I just want to report that the City Council met in closed session for a special meeting at 5 o'clock today prior to this regular meeting, and there's nothing to report out of that meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Your report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to let everyone know we have magnets and flyers in the lobby. The flyers look like this, and it lets everyone know what's going on in the city, how you can subscribe to our website and follow us on social media. And then also, I just wanted to let everyone know that the Veterans Day Parade will be on Channel 26 and on our YouTube channel, FFCA TV, in a few weeks, so please watch for it. Thank you.
And we have some presentations, if you would, Madam Clerk, please.
Presentation 2, Proclamation declaring November as Native American Heritage Month, and our presenter is Councilmember Moy.
I'm going to do this from here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me the honor of doing this. My family are part of a tribe, Chippewa, in North Dakota, and we're registered there, and so this means a lot to me. Whereas November is Native American Heritage Month, or as it is commonly referred to, American Indian and Alaska Native Heritage Month, a time to celebrate rich, diverse cultures, traditions, and histories, acknowledging the important contributions of Native people. And whereas it is also important to educate the public about various Native American tribes, to raise awareness about the unique challenges Native people have faced historically and in the present, and the ways in which tribal citizens have worked to overcome and conquer these challenges in spite of inequitable systems. And whereas we can most effectively address the historical and continued challenges of Native people through a sustained effort to effect real change, through historical acknowledgement, honest and accurate education, visibility, and inclusion of Indigenous people in our neighborhoods and communities, including public and private institutions. Whereas California has the highest number of Native Americans with a population of 757,628, comprising about 1.94% of its total population as of the 2020 census. Whereas the Susunes, also called the Susun, and the people of the West Wind were a Patwin tribe of Wintun people originating in the Susun Bay and Susun Marsh regions of Solano County. Historians estimate they lived in this region for 4,000 years. And whereas Simiero was a leader of the Susunes, was baptized as Francisco Solano at the San Francisco Mission, and was also known as Chief Solano, whom Solano County is named after. Whereas the Susune's main village, Yoyo, is located in the greater Rockville Park area and Suisun Valley Road, where petroglyphs and acorn grinding rocks can still be found. Now therefore, I, Harry T. Price, Mayor of the City of Fairfield, do hereby proclaim the month of November as Native American Heritage Month in the City of Fairfield, and encourage the community to learn more about the people who first called this city, county, state, and nation home. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next presentation, Madam Clerk?
Yes, proclamation marking the 35th anniversary of Shelter, Inc., and our presenter is Councilmember Panduro.
Thank you. And if I could have the CEO of Shelter Inc. come down, Mr. John Ekstrom, please. And so this proclamation is declaring $4,000 on the tide of Hands Across America movement. And whereas in 1987, in its first year of operations, Shelter Inc. moved 850 individuals into permanent housing. And whereas in 1989, the Pittsburgh Family Center opened, and Shelter Inc. began its partnership with Project Earth to serve more families in Contra Costa with rental assistance. And whereas in 1993, Shelter Inc. opened the Mountain View Family Shelter in Martinez. And whereas in 1997, Shelter Inc. created the Affordable Housing Association of Pittsburgh. And whereas in 2008, Shelter Inc. hired its first employment specialist to provide in-house services for clients. And whereas in 2010, 5,760 clients were served during the height of the Great Recession, and emergency prevention funding was provided for more than 1,400 people. And whereas in 2011, Shelter Inc. was awarded a VA grant to support veteran families and was chosen to be one of Tipping Point Community's partner agencies. And whereas in 2013, Shelter Inc. was awarded its first funding to serve the re-entry population, the formerly incarcerated persons, and whereas in 2014, Shelter Inc.'s operating budget topped $10 million. And whereas in 2018, Shelter Inc. began operating an eviction prevention program in Solano County, and in 2019 began operating a shelter in Fairfield, which is named Shelter Solano. And whereas in 2021, Shelter Inc. expanded into Sacramento County and opened its River District Shelter and was awarded 2 Project Room Key programs, one in Contra Costa and one in Solano County. And whereas in 2021, Shelter Inc. became a registered victims service provider for survivors of domestic violence, and the total number of who have been helped by Shelter Inc. in the past 35 years exceeds 263,000. And whereas in 2022, Shelter Inc. will open a newly constructed dining hall and kitchen at Shelter Solano, including culinary arts training. Now, therefore, I, Harry T. Price, Mayor of City of Fairfield, do by proclaim November 17th, 2021, as the 35th anniversary of Shelter Inc., and ask the community to join me in congratulating them on this momentous occasion and thank them for the excellent work they do in the community to help those in need. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. And now, Colonel Simmons, if you would come on up and give us an update on what's happening at Travis Air Force Base with all the activity that we're seeing. Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Council members, it's a privilege to be able to be with you. Mr. Mayor, great to see you, Stefan and team. To all the folks in the audience, people stand at attention when I talk, so that was supposed to be a joke. It's really cool that you guys have the chaplain here that prayed for me before I walked into here, because it's been a long time since I got to sit in front of all these elected officials, so bear with me as I go as fast as I possibly can. I was told I had an hour and a half. All right, cool. So we'll work through this relatively quickly.
The sky's the limit, sir.
Right, I will go faster and funnier, that is for sure. If I could just introduce my team, you got to meet Chaplain Richardson. I mentioned Miss Tanya, but the young man sitting next to me is Mr. Joe Dingman. He's a new addition to our team in the last year. Last October, we were fortunate enough to add an executive director position to Travis Air Force Base. This body and things like it is the reason that Joe Dingman's on our team. Brings a unique liaison opportunity that speaks civilian, right, to be able to translate that, and he is your entry point to just about anything that you need on the installation. So I will make sure that if you don't have his contact info, you'll have it before we walk out of this room, because he gets to know all of Fairfield, all of Vallejo, all of this, all of that. You see where I'm going with this, right? So his plate is absolutely full, but does a great job for us. So I just want to recognize Joe if I could. What I want to do, and I will be brief, is I want to remind you what's just sitting 6 miles west of here. And kind of just remind the folks here that place is a beast. It is an unbelievable beast, and I'll just give you just a few stats to point that out. 8,500 active duty personnel, 3,500 reservists, 3,200 civilians, 8,000 family members, and the list goes on and on. We talk roughly 22,000 people come in and out of that gate every day to be able to bring combat power for America. If that doesn't get you excited, then I don't know why we're all sitting here. It really is a special place. 57 aircraft, KC-10s, C-5s, and C-17s, soon to have 24 freshly painted, brand new KC-46s in the summer of 2023, and a lot of stuff that goes with that. Construction that I'll talk about here in a second. I will say most people ask the question, is it going to be more people, less people? It's basically population neutral, because the KC-10s will retire as the KC-46s come online. But for the most part, we're about to get newer, faster, and funnier, and more relevant than we've ever been before. It is a pretty interesting place to be here. So that's the preamble. Let me just tell you what I want to do is I want to tell you what our why is. I want to tell you why we believe it. I want to tell you how I know it's true, and then give you a few outliers, and we're done. So we have 5 priorities at Travis: airmen, team, pride, readiness, and trust. What airmen means is that every decision that's made out there is about all those airmen I talked about before, right? Now, I tell them that when we make decisions, not every airman wins. That's not how this works, right? But every single decision, you have to think that most precious resource that we have, the airmen, forget the airplanes, forget the buildings, forget all that. If those airmen aren't taken care of, none of it matters, right? So we put the majority of our focus there. Teams. If anybody's ever played sports before, you know what it's like to be on a championship team. You know what it's like to hold that trophy up. You know exactly what it's like, and to have that feeling of ownership. That's what we do there. And let me be very clear, there's no better team than the ones that make up the 22nd Airlift Squadron, the 21st Airlift Squadron, the Logistics Readiness Squadron. Pick the 27 squadrons associated with my base, and I promise you, if you ask them who the best team was, they better say them. Right? That's kind of how it works, right? And so we foster a place where you stick your chest out and you know exactly how good you are, right? And that's something that we're really good at. We build quality teams. Pride, right? If you haven't figured that out already, right, we're pretty prideful, right? And when our name goes in the mud for pick a reason, we don't take very good to it, right? And we're not perfect. We never claim to be, but we try every day to get to that perfection, right? And I want our airmen that when things go awry, I want it to hurt. I want it to feel like we let somebody down. And the catch is, to my knowledge at this point, when I start saying some of the things we've done, I don't believe at this point we've let anybody down, which is pretty cool. And then you got to be ready. For all the infrastructure that we're going to talk about, for all the airmen that we're going to talk about, there is an enemy, there is a threat, there's a pacing threat. We can have that argument all you want, but you can point west and it's there. And many of the things that I'm going to talk about that add infrastructure to Travis Air Force Base is about the pacing threat, right? And so our airmen have to be ready. And for 10 years, 20 in my case, if you think about how long we've been in Afghanistan, we have fought that fight. The next fight won't look like that, right? So we can't train the way we've done in the past, and so we have to continue looking ways to get better. And those 4 pillars really mean nothing, ladies and gentlemen, unless it's all about the 5th one with me, and that's trust, right? Trust is a two-way street, and it's binary. You either have it or you don't, right? And so what we try to instill with our airmen is that we absolutely trust them to be able to make the right calls, accept the appropriate amount of risk, and when asked, they'll deliver, right? And when you say Travis Air Force Base, outside the walls of Fairfield, they know that that's what right's supposed to look like, that it's going to deliver every single time. That's the outward trust. But I argue that none of that will matter is if the youngest airman on my base doesn't believe that I, as the commander, will look at their best interest at heart. And it actually is more important that I believe that he or she will too, right? And so those 5 pillars is kind of what we're about. Fundamental principles. Why do I believe that? How do I know? Here's a few things. You may have heard about Afghanistan, right? You may have heard 17 days in August is what we like to call it, right? 135,000 Afghanistan nationals were evacuated out of Karzai International Airport on the backs of the C-17s, C-5s, and KC-10s that sit right over here at Travis Air Force Base. Right? On that day, we sent 35 aircraft and all the things associated with that in hours' notice. I've only seen the ramp that empty twice. Once when we evacuated the whole installation, right, if you recall from the fires, and the day after the order was given to go to Afghanistan. 11 of our 13 C-17s were gone. 16 of our 29 KC-10s and 7 of our C-5s gone in 24 hours. Right. Herculean effort. And 17 days later, that's done. We were roughly 25% of the action that was going on in Afghanistan all happened from the pavement that is sitting right here. Those are your airmen. Talk about COVID. Our hospital has never stopped, right? As many of you know, we deployed airmen into the communities to be able to help with that. Things you might not know is that our hospital ensured that we got COVID supplies to Korea, COVID supplies to India, and all of those places happened with about 15 minutes notice, it felt like. And we call that Tuesday, right? It's just what we do. It has been an honor and a privilege to have been even associated with these airmen that do a mission that it's really amazing. When you think about what that place is, it's the largest base in Air Mobility Command by threefold, right? By threefold. It is the only base that has all 4 mission sets. We do aeromedical evac, which is new. We do air refueling. We do airlift. We do air mobility support operations. The only base that does them all, right? We're the only base with all 3 jets. We're the only base with the largest hospital. We're the only base with the largest aerial port on the West Coast. It's not an accident that the enemy is paying attention to what's going on right out at the base just 6 miles west of here, right? For a quick infrastructure update, I'll highlight a few. As of this moment, roughly $350 million of on-contract construction happening at Travis right now. The majority of that associated with the KC-46, $225 million of that. A $75 million upgrade to the aerial port. You may not know that there's a Navy TACAMO facility, a Navy aircraft that are there. There's a $70 million upgrade for their facility going on. And then ideally, if everything pans out, the first week of February, we'll go under contract for a $142 million brand new runway. All right, so when you do all that math, that's $500 million with a B of infrastructure going into your base right outside the walls between now and the summer. The runway, you want to know what makes me nervous? The runway makes me nervous because anytime you go from 2 to 1, that's a thing, right? Concrete's expensive. Construction material's expensive, right? We're the government. We're supposed to stay on budget. How's that generally work for us, right? Right, and so it's a 2-year project, right? And a lot of things can happen, right? And so our job is to ensure that all that kind of stays on track. I talked about training differently. We will do a flyaway exercise for the first time in 10 years in the spring, where we will uproot the majority of our base and go to another location and prepare to fight like we would have to somewhere else. Generations in the Air Force are about 3 years. You lose capability of folks who know how to do it in about 3 years. And I just said, how long has it been since we've done one? 10. Right? And so it's a massive muscle movement between now and the spring to ensure that our airmen are ready to do that. And then, like every commander, I've got things that keep me up at night, right? And so they rhyme with things that keep everybody up at night. How about utility infrastructure, right? Utility resiliency. If I lose power at Travis Air Force Base, that's a big deal, right? And we lose it more often than I would like to, right? Water resiliency. All those things that aren't sexy, but they're incredibly important and something that I pay attention to. I have been incredibly happy with the support not only from this council, but from Solano County on all things wind farms so that we can partner with both industry that's trying to grow and with the protecting our mission. Those conversations have never been more fluid in a positive way. There's actually conversations to be able to move those needles in both directions. That excites me. And then specifically, one that I know Pam has been helpful with is all things spouse reciprocity. It has been, it was a massive win for the House bill to have passed that gives us the first incremental step in making it a little bit easier for our spouses to be able to get employment. I'll be fair, I'm not done, right? I'm going to keep, there's other, that's just the tip of the iceberg for me, and we'll kind of try to keep going from there. I'll close with some things to look forward to. So between now and the summer. So in January, I'll host the California Commanders Conference. So all of the installation commanders associated with the state of California will come to Travis, and we'll talk through trying to get on one, sing out of the same hymnal of the things that we all care about. It's not an accident that's right before California state legislation starts talking about stuff again. So trying to hopefully maybe get some language in, maybe even more about spouse reciprocity or energy resiliency. We will have both the 18th Air Force Commander, the 2-star, my direct boss, and the brand new Air Mobility Command Commander, General Minahan, will be on station in February, tied specifically with the state of the base. Right, since many of you attended last year, the reason I don't have charts is because I want you to come, right? So you can see all things associated with the base and be able to shake hands with some of my heroes and airmen that work with us. The flyway exercise in April, and then I'm happy to announce that we're planning to host another air show at Travis Air Force Base the 14th and 15th of May. It has been a minute since we've done that, and like I said, 3 years is a generation, right? And so we got some work to do to be ready for that. I'm not ready to tell you who's coming, but I can tell you it's good, right? I can tell you it's good, and looking forward to be able to hosting folks like that, and then that'll get us to June and July, and the base will do what it normally does, transition, right? I have 27 squadrons. We will transition 17 new commanders, right? We will transition to a new installation commander, who's a guy named Derek Salmi. That's been announced. He's a fantastic human. He was the wing commander at Fairchild up in Spokane. He's now currently at the Pentagon. Fantastic family. You're upgrading. I'm telling you already. But with that, Mr. Mayor, I did my best to stay under 12 minutes. I think I did about 8.5 according to my watch. But with that, pending your questions, that's the current state of Travis Air Force Base.
Colonel, where are you going?
I wish I knew. I do not know that. I do not know that, sir. That traditionally for us, we find out in the spring, kind of what the next thing is for us. But our family's looking forward to the next adventure.
East Coast is lovely.
Sir, I've got Pentagon time. I'm good.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Colonel. And really appreciate all that you do, sir. Thank you.
And our fifth presentation is the closing of Woodland Parole Unit by our Chief of Police, Cantrell.
Well, I, like Colonel Simmons, am used to people standing when I speak, so I'm not. Nobody's ever done that. It's a nice try, though. So on October 31st, I was notified by Ron Turner of Senator Dodd's office about the closing of the Woodland Parole Office in Yolo County, and that office was going to be moved to Fairfield in December of this year. And so that wasn't a whole lot of notification, and lucky that, and grateful that Ron did send that notification. So it was in an email, and in that email there was a letter that was written by the Yolo County Law Enforcement Administrators Association, so all of the law enforcement administrators in Yolo County, and that letter was written to the Commissioner of the Division of Adult Parole in Sacramento, Guillermo Villarosa. And the letter outlined really primarily 4 significant reasons that Yolo County law enforcement administrators believed that the Woodland office should remain in Woodland and not move to Fairfield. Those reasons were, in essence, the Woodland County serves, the Woodland Parole Office serves 3 counties, Yolo, Sutter, and Colusa County. They have 400 parolees that they serve out of that office. And of those 400, 80 are homeless and 30 are registered sex offenders. So the fear was if they moved that office that it would reduce the number of parolees that report in person. And there's a lot of them that currently report in person to that Woodland office. They're homeless and sex registrant population. 30 of them have ankle monitors because they are serious enough offenders that they need to be monitored. And they have ankle monitors to do that. And the people that have ankle monitors, the parolees, come into that office and charge them weekly. And so the fear is, if the office is gone and there isn't somewhere that they can regularly go to charge those monitors, either they won't charge them, and then that becomes a significant public safety risk, or they're going to have to find somewhere else. They're concerned that they have a lot of lifetime parolees, so parolees that are on lifetime parole, and a lot of them have behavioral health and mental health issues, and they are seen in that office for those issues. And many of them get injectable psychotropic medication twice a month in that office. And so the fear is, if that office moves, that they just will stop getting those injections, and then that would become a significant public safety issue for that county, or for all 3 of those counties. And so their request is actually to keep the Woodland Parole Office in Yolo County, which I was happy to see, because that's our request as well. So immediately upon learning about that, which was October 31st, I reached out to the sheriff, Tom Ferrara, and the DA's office, and let them know that this was happening, because none of us were aware of this. And then I drafted a memo to you all to just let you know what I knew at that point, which was not a whole lot. And so since then, the mayor and I drafted a letter that was sent to Senator Dodd's office, Assemblyman Fraser's office, and Commissioner Villarosa's office as well. And then the sheriff wrote a similar letter on behalf of all Solano County law enforcement administrators, and that letter was sent to all of the same folks, including the Board of Supervisors. And then we also, of course, have the letter from Yolo County that was sent to everybody as well. Later this week, I'll have a meeting with Councilmember Chuck Tim and the sheriff, and I will meet with Jeff McComber, who's the undersecretary of CDCR, who's the number 2 person with CDCR, and hopefully we'll get a few more answers there. So our concerns are really these things for Fairfield specifically. I talked to the supervisor of parole for Solano County, and he assured me that parolees would not be required to move to Fairfield or come to Fairfield. But when I pushed him on that, they may not be required to, but what I pushed him toward was, if I'm a parolee that currently lives in one of those counties and I don't have an anchor to that county, such as housing or family or a job, if I put in a request to move to the actual county where my parole office is, would that request be approved? Now, he said it could be, and it couldn't be, so I would say it could be. And so that means that we really don't know what the impact would be, but the impact could, in fact, be significant for us. So our concerns in general are these, that parolees could get approval to move here to Fairfield and be in our county. They already have a 400-person caseload, 80 of which are homeless and 30 are sex registrants. And for us in Fairfield, we already respond to about 380 homeless-related calls a month. And we have 288 registered sex offenders that we keep track of, 43 of which are homeless already. And so we're tapped out on that workload. And so adding additional folks to that wouldn't be helpful for us. Woodland has all the folks that are on lifetime parole, and so I already mentioned that about folks having significant mental health and behavioral health issues. And we're the county seat in Fairfield, and we already have a behavioral health system in Fairfield that is maxed out, that really doesn't have the capacity to provide additional services to more folks. So adding folks to us would be really difficult and add quite a burden on us, not to mention the public safety issues that it could create. So in general, those are our concerns, and I'll keep working on it. The Board of Supervisors may have a meeting on this tomorrow at 6. I'm going to attend that with the sheriff to talk about these issues there as well. So any questions that I can answer, I will certainly try to do so.
Mr. Vice Mayor, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for the presentation. Appreciate it. I know it's a concern of everybody on this council, but I just want to give kudos to Councilman Tim. I know he's been really on this for the last few weeks. I know we've talked about it a few times, so good job, Chuck. But yeah, I know it's, I just wanted to say that. But I know it's a major concern for all of us. When you're the county seat, that's what happens, right? So you have to be aware.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other comments for the chief? Councilman Tim?
Yeah, and I just want to, I want to thank the chief because it's probably like the military, ready, set, go. We don't have enough time. I want to give a shout out to the Attorney General. We have a meeting with him on Monday. So this has gone up the ladder, but this is extremely serious, and we're not crying wolf, and, you know, it's, unfortunately, the state is kind of like mom and dad. They can say what they're going to do. We're just trying to persuade them not to, but a very strong, persuasive argument, I think. But between the time you've spent and the sheriff, and then tomorrow night, the meeting with the Board of Supervisors on an emergency meeting, I certainly appreciate it, and we will let you know where this goes, because it's not good at all. So, thanks, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Councilman Boyd, please.
Yeah, Chief, first, I'd also like to thank Councilman Tim. He and I responded strongly at first, and so our city attorney said that we need to bring it in front of us, which is why we're doing this now. I appreciate talking about this in the public. It is serious. You know, as we all know, Chuck was a sergeant, an officer. He understands this. And I have spoken a lot with Ron from Senator Dodds. I don't frankly understand why the senators and those guys couldn't slow this down or stop it. But I'm glad to know that the Attorney General will be coming. And I appreciate all of your push on this, because you're right. We are extremely stressed here, our police officers. You know, 4 years ago, it said that we were at the top end of what we could be doing here. Saturated was the word that I saw in the report that was done for this city. So this is not good, obviously. Thank you, and I'll be watching. Thank you.
And thank you for all of your ideas that you sent me as well.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Chief.
Chief, thank you very much for both the presentation as well as your taking the lead on combating this effort.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, we turn now to process for public comments, if you would, please.
Yes. Persons wishing to address the City Council on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. The council cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting, but council members may briefly respond to statements made or questions raised by the public, ask for clarification from staff, refer the matter to staff, request staff to report back to the council at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. To speak on an agenda item, if you haven't already done so, please complete a speaker's card. When joining via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9 on your phone to request to speak, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item. Thank you. And I do have a couple of public comment requests. Jeff Traeger is our first speaker.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to bring everybody up to date what's going on at the Downtown Theater. On the 16th, we have Matilda Jr., which is a story of a young girl with superpowers. On November 4th, we have a Christmas show, which is a tribute to one of the world's greatest soul singers that we've ever had, Luther Vandross. And we had the gentleman named Ray McCoy, who did it a couple of years ago, and we sold out the theater, and he's bringing back his show. And I want your daughter to come and see this guy sing, 'cause
Consider it done.
you got it. My guest. And then on the 16th of December, we have the Sound of Music. And I want to say something about the great job that Day Spearing and her cast and all the people that are participating in all the productions. because, it's so hard to do it. I don't know if people realize just how hard of a job it is, and I give her so much credit, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Our next speaker is Brian Lynch.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. It's been a while, but just a few weeks, I guess, but I did some work in the city recently, and I wanted to report back to you. Out in front of Grange Middle School, there are 3 crossing safety signs in the middle of the road, and I noticed through the years they've been accumulating dirt, rocks, leaves, cigarette butts, and weeds. And since it was affecting, I tried to get those cleaned up, didn't happen, but since it was affecting me, I said, let me get out there and I'll do that and then see what happens. After filling 12 5-gallon buckets, I finished. Sorry. During this time, I got some feedback from the community, and I'm going to share that with you. While I was out there with my snazzy yellow vest, the majority of the drivers who drove by, they slowed down, concerned for my safety, and I appreciated that. Then this woman drove by, and she said, "Good job." And yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. And then this man drives by, and he says, "It's about time." So, to a little bit of a shock at first, but then I said, I disregarded that because that was not directed at me. And instead I said, what did he mean? What was he trying to say? Was he disappointed that this area had taken so long to get cleaned? I think so. And I think we can also include with that message, or that statement of his, the garbage can over in front of the bus stop at Tabor Park that was overflowing for more than a month, blowing in the wind for all to view. And currently, we are a little over 3 weeks, and it includes a little bit of rain on top of that garbage can. And we can go down further at Claybank in Tabor, where there's an open field with a fence, a 500-foot fence that has been, the 500-foot fence to keep us out from the dangers behind it. And yet, over the last, it has been in disrepair or total disrepair for years. For years that fence has been lying there. And at the other end, at Sunset in Tabor, there's another fence where someone found a way to run into that fence.
And would you conclude, please?
And so, I'm going to have to finish another time because there's a little bit more. Sorry. So there's it's been lying in disrepair. Now I know you spend a tremendous amount of money on these fences and keeping the city clean, but it doesn't seem to be effective. Sorry, it's going to have to finish another time. Sorry. It does need to be done. All right, thank you.
The message is well received. Thank you.
Did anyone else want to speak on public comment? And then Brian, is there anyone on Zoom that wants to speak on public comment?
Yes, we do have one speaker on Zoom. I'll go ahead and bring this person in. We have Edward Russell Jr. And Edward, you should be good to go.
The amount of lies and hypocrisy in that building right now can only be done by white nerd. Moy just say that she has part Native American in her. Same person that says she got part Latina in her during the protest period about a year and a half ago. I wonder if she shares that same information on her home mortgage loan. Probably not. But what's funny is I seen the boy with the gray hair on his little public announcement talking about hate speak or something, hate free. But this is the same boy that allowed domestic terrorists to run free. This is the same boy that allows a convicted murderer to serve on his law enforcement gang and blue team. And then it's the hypocrisy with the habitual and chronic liar that is the city manager and his sidekick Tim, who had some black citizens arrested only because they didn't conform and they don't have the intestinal manhood to do anything about it. They had to call their boys in blue. Hilarious. And then you have the guy with the costume on in his opening dialogue today say something about every bit of evil. Every bit of evil. And then they bring up the other boy in the costume to talk about the connection with Travis Air Force Base in the city council. 2 years ago, when domestic terrorists at Vanden attacked students, you guys said you didn't know nobody over there. You guys were a separate entity. Now you're buddies, you knowing, you have him there talking, and then he says, oh, we're about pride. We're about pride. And then he went on to say that we take these things serious because our men are wearing pride. But there's a full-bird colonel whose son was a domestic terrorist. So did they not look at that part of the pride? I'm kind of lost at the hypocrisy and the lies that these particular group of white Americans continue to get away with. And I will share this with you. Maybe this will help you kind of let me share this. The great James Baldwin said, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. And see, white Americans like to say things. How privileged of you is it that you can have a hate-free week? You know, one day, blacks and Latinos should get together and have a white American hate-free week. That must be nice. Be so privileged that you can see that the hate exists and you only acknowledge it for 1 week, when we have to endure it every year. The hypocrisy and lies. Thank you, white America. Appreciate you. Great. Another checkbox.
Thank you.
Will.
Okay, we do have another speaker here. We have Michelle Dill. Let me go ahead and okay. Okay, Michelle, you're right. You're on.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
So the reason I attended tonight's city council meeting is because of posts on Nextdoor about another high-density apartment complex that's going to be built. My comments and my requests are not due to taking any issue with having more apartments built, because I think having more housing is good, is important, even if it is just apartments, or if it doesn't contribute to suburban sprawl, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But my concerns and where I would like clarification is on things like how are we going to handle that traffic? How are we going to have enough grocery stores and other stores for those new residents? And are we going to have enough schools for all of the future residents of those, not only the apartment complex that's already being built, but then now I'm hearing there's another one. So again, not an anti-housing, but just want to understand more about how we are going to account for that, because there's only one really grocery store within driving distance at Green Valley Safeway, where the Costco is. Traffic is already a nightmare, and our schools, while I don't think they are over full yet, is a concern I have moving forward with all this new housing coming in. So those are the items I'd like more information on.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
And we have no further speakers at this time.
So we turn now to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion unless a member of the City Council or the public requests that separate action be taken on a specific item.
Seeing none, entertain a motion then to approve the consent calendar as it's been submitted. Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilman Tim. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We turn to new business, please. Item number 20.
And I did not have any speaker cards for the consent calendar. New business, item 20, Resolution 2021-283 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield supporting and proclaiming November 14th through the 20th, 2021, United Against Hate Week. And our presenter is Vice Mayor Vaccaro.
Okay, thank you. I was contacted about maybe 6 months ago by an employee from the city of Berkeley, the mayor's office, and he talked about other cities in the Bay Area that were doing a United Against Hate Week. So that's proclaiming November 14th through the 20th of 2021, United Against Hate Week. So whereas the United States is a nation of immigrants whose strength comes from its diversity, and whereas the United States Constitution enshrines equality on all individuals, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or political views. And whereas in April 2021, the City Council unanimously adopted Resolution 2021-60, condemning hate crimes, attacks, and attitudes against the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. And whereas in April 2021, the Council unanimously adopted Resolution 2021-78, denouncing hate crimes and violence against all persons, and reaffirming the City of Fairfield's commitment to ensure all members of the Fairfield community feel safe and welcome in the city. And whereas education, compassion, and cooperation are key to unlocking understanding and embracing differences between people. And whereas the City of Fairfield is dedicated to preventing and opposing hate and intolerance in our community. And whereas the City of Fairfield seeks to join other Bay Area, California communities and communities across the country in supporting and proclaiming November 14th through the 20th, 2021 as United Against Hate Week, which is an important step in bridging divisions and strengthening communities. Now, therefore, the Council of the City of Fairfield hereby resolves, Section 1, the City Council hereby proclaims the week of November 14th through the 20th, 2021 as United Against Hate Week, and will support and encourage appropriate educational and community events during the week and each and every day beyond. Thank you.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the resolution as read.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to ask for any comment, any public comment on this?
I'm sorry?
Even though it's a ceremonial resolution, do you want to ask for public comment or?
Any comments?
I don't have any cards. Did anyone want to speak on this item?
Entertain a motion then to approve. It's been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilman Moyle. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We turn then to item number 21, please.
Oh, actually, we do have a request to speak via Zoom at this time.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
Okay, stand by. We have Edward Russell Jr.
I just want to say that is absolute hypocrisy and a slap in the face of every Black person, Latino, Asian, Samoan, Hindu, our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. That what you just did is a slap in the face. Because, like I previously said, what you say and what you do, two different things. And everybody that's sitting on that council, outside of Councilwoman Panduro, is an absolute racist, bigot. None of you guys put any effort in to bring justice and to bring severe consequences against those domestic terrorists in 2019 at Bannon High. Your racist city manager constantly has Black folks harassed, imprisoned, hunted. You have Councilmember Tim, who is a known racist, who aligns himself with law enforcement that employs a convicted murderer. So everything you just said, who do you think the public is? A bunch of buffoons? Just because you say some things and you check a box? And again, like I previously said, you only acknowledge hate for 1 week? Oh my God, it must be so privileged to not have to worry about someone hating you because of the color of your skin, or attacking your children because of the color of their skin. So what you just did, kudos to you, but it means nothing. Until that one day when your loved one has sex with someone of a different color, and then that offspring is dark skinned, and then that dark skinned baby is attacked and harassed, hunted and murdered. Well, then you probably understand. Sleep well on that. Hell has a place waiting for you.
Are there any other speakers?
Yes, I just got a card from Coy Gibson.
Hello, everyone. Hello, council, audience. I just wanted to speak and say that I understand we we just donated a whole week for, canceling hate. I would just make sure, I would want to make sure as a council that you guys actually, promote education of hate within America. Within the confines. I just kind of feel it's unfair to see that we're going to devote a whole week to Asian hate, particularly when we talk about hate within the confines of America. We do understand that America was built on race, so I don't want us to get away from that, to acknowledge that, but to also acknowledge the education with hate. I mean, we can't kill hate if we're not all educated. So that's the one thing I would like to see you guys promoting education around this topic, and I would also like to see not just it devoted to Asian hate, but to Latina, African American, Native American. I would like to see all of that. So, but with that, you do have to be educated. That's the only thing I just wanted to say. That is that. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Brian, do you have any others?
There are no other requests at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. So, again, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2021-283. Moved by Councilman Tim, seconded by Councilman Moy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We turn then to item number 21, please, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 2021-284 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds by the CSCDA Community Improvement Authority for the acquisition of 2100 West Texas Street of Fairfield, known as Park Crossing Apartments, and authorizing the city manager to enter into a public benefit agreement. And our presenter is David Gassaway, Assistant City Manager.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Can I step in? I'm sorry, really quick.
Yes.
Mayor, I need to recuse myself as my sister currently resides in this complex in order to talk to this attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, David Gassaway, Assistant City Manager. The item before you tonight is a resolution authorizing bond financing through CSCDA. And in fact, it's a sub-JPA, Joint Powers Authority of the California Statewide Community Development Authority, known as their CSCDA Community Improvement Authority. If you'll remember, back in August, Council approved a similar project, the Waterscape Apartments on North Texas, using this same structure with CSCDA. By way of just quick general overview, the California Statewide Community Development Authority is a joint powers authority that has started a workforce housing program. The focus of this program is on what's called the missing middle in housing parlance. It's households that are generally below 80%, 100%, or 120% of area median income. They finance the acquisition and conversion of existing multifamily projects through tax-exempt bond financing, and then generally restrict rents at those projects for no more than 4% per year. By also, they reduce the rents to be affordable at households within those income categories, like I said, 80, 100, and 120, 120% of area median income. The project that they propose now is the Park Crossing Apartments. So just to orient you real quick, it's effectively at the northeast corner of West Texas Street and Beck Avenue, just off of Interstate 80. The Park Crossings is a 200-unit existing apartment complex built in, I believe, 2006. There's 72 one-bedroom units, 122 bedroom units, and 8 three-bedroom units, with a range of market rents currently. So CSCDA's proposal is that they, through, as I said, tax-exempt bond financing, will acquire the property. They will then convert all 200 of the units to rental restrictions. Just over a third of the units would be restricted to households at or below 80% of area median income. A third of the units, or just over a third of the units at or below 100% of area median income, and then the remainder of the units at 120% of area median income. To do this, CSCDA, in partnership with Opportunity Housing, which would be the operator, would issue just about $94.5 million in Series A bonds for the acquisition of the property. That would also include acquisition fees, funding of reserves, as well as the cost of issuance of that debt. In addition, they would issue a $5 million Series B bond, which acts in effect as a deferred fee for Opportunity Housing. The project then receives, because it would be owned by a joint powers authority, which is a governmental entity, it would be exempt from property taxes, and it's that difference with those property taxes that make this whole structure work. The city then is a party to a public benefit agreement with CSCDA. Starting in year 15 through year 30, then the city would have the opportunity, if we so choose, to request a sale or transfer of that property, and any benefits that may come with that. I will note real quick that the purchase price for Park Crossing is $83.5 million. Which is about 20% less than the $99.5 million in debt that would be issued for the acquisition and conversion. There are certainly potential benefits for this deal. The biggest one being, rent increases for residents that income qualify. The city and our housing department are currently working on achieving a pro-housing designation through California Department of Housing and Community Development. There is a possibility that the conversion acceptance of this project helps us. I believe it's 1 point towards a total 30-point rating for receiving that pro-housing designation. With a pro-housing designation, that also helps to elevate our status in terms of additional grant funding in future years for the development of affordable housing. It's estimated that on average, about 10% rent savings for all of the units at Park Crossing for those households that income qualify. And then a little bit different from the waterscape project that you approved in August, they are offering now a host city charge. And so what this equates to is effectively a repayment to the city for our loss in property taxes. So we would have lost a little over $99,000 in current year assessments in property tax. They will make up for that at $500 per door or $100,000 per year with the inclusion of a 2% inflator. Of note, other taxing entities within the county that receive property tax from these properties will still lose out on some revenues. As I had covered in a little bit more depth than I'm going to tonight, there are some concerns that your professional staff has with the deal. The biggest of which is that the regulatory agreement that locks in the affordability, we're not a party to that, and that's not conventional with affordable housing. Therefore, ultimately, the city has no recourse should the property not comply with the regulatory agreement. The deal is funded again by the exemption of property taxes. It's basically the reduction in those property taxes that allow for the subsidies to be provided to residents. However, in this case, I will just point out that the tax reduction is about $700,000 per year to the operations of the property, which is substantially higher than about $510,000 in rent savings that would go to qualifying households. At the last meeting in August, I'd pointed out that there was a possibility we could get RENA credit, Regional Housing Needs Allocation. Certainly that's a hot topic all throughout the state. There was legislation passed that does allow some entities to receive RENA credit for similar types of structures. Unfortunately, CSCDA's program is not structured in such a way that we could get the RENA credit for those units at or below 80% of area median income. As well as since the last meeting, there has been some concerns raised by one of our consultant advisors, CSG Advisors. They provided a statewide white paper. These deals are happening all over the state, so they put out some information. It's in your staff report. I'm not going to go into all of the details on that, but would be happy to answer any questions. So, similar to the item that was before you in August, staff still believes that these may not be the best deal in terms of affordable housing, but we have set up your packet tonight with the resolution 2021-284 that would authorize the issuance of the bonds. We're already a member of the JPA. You entered into that in August, so it would just be authorization of issuance of the bonds and then directing staff and authorizing the city manager in order to execute all documents and finalize the deal. So with that, that's my presentation. I'm available for any questions, and we also have, I believe, Lauren Seaver from Opportunity Housing and James Hamill from CSCDA here if you had any questions for them.
Councilman Tim, please.
Yeah, thank you. David, good job. I have a question. We've now done 2, and you say they're proliferating throughout the state. When do we get to a point where we are now restricting people that make higher income from living in what I would consider to be actually very nice apartments? When do we hit that point? Is there a caveat to us about future? Because assuming this one passes, this will be the second one. And then the next part of my question is, do you know what our apartment vacancy rate is in the city of Fairfield? Last I heard it was 2 to 3%.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but that would seem about right, about 2 to 3%. Certainly, there's been upward pressure on rents in apartments over the last year and a half. There's been upward pressure on a lot of stuff from a pricing perspective, but that would indicate that there's not enough supply for the demand that we have. In terms of your first question, I would say ultimately that's up to the council. In my August presentation, I talked a little bit about with these deal structures, in effect, they can pay over market value for properties. So there's almost nothing that prohibits this type of program from buying just about any property that they would want to buy. And so, at some point, that's a policy decision. In conversations with many other jurisdictions, some jurisdictions are addressing that very question in a variety of ways. A couple of cities that I've talked to are basically just saying, hey, we'll do 3 projects or we'll do 4 projects and then that's it. One city I spoke to that's in the East Bay area, they basically capped it at the amount of property tax loss that they would allow. Once projects reached that amount, they weren't going to approve anymore. So ultimately, if that were a conversation that council wanted to have in terms of policy, we could come back and provide you some options. One of the things that CSG Advisors had put into their white paper as a recommendation, there are a couple of entities that are doing these deals. So this would be our second with CSCDA, but in fact it would be our 3rd conversion project. Prior to CSCDA, the Verdant project or property was converted. That was under, again, a different JPA structure, but very much the same type of program in the way it operates. And so CSG, recognizing this is happening in lots of places, recommends that cities do RFPs, basically to identify potential properties or potential, a threshold of how many projects you want to do, and then issue, RFPs or requests for proposal to add a little bit of market competition to the deal that you're otherwise getting in terms of the structure of the overall conversion project.
So we're close to now 1,000 apartments that will be under CSCDA, this funding mechanism?
Yeah, I think that's no, not 1,000. With CSCDA, would be these 200 plus the 190 from Waterscape, so that's 390, and then I want to say Verdant was around 280, 296 would be, so yeah,
700 or so?
700 units,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Comments, Councilwoman Moy, please.
I didn't vote for the one in August, and I will not today again because I have real concerns about meddling in markets, for one, and two, because I feel like we have too much risk. I just think that the city itself, that it's risky. So I will vote no on this, but I would like in the future for us to maybe do RFPs so we have a better handle on it, and I'd like the city to have more control over some of these things that are going on. It seems a little like the Wild West to me. I'm all about having affordable housing for people who are working, a workhouse. Let me try that again. Anyway, apartments or housing for every level, from the people who are very, very poor, which we don't have enough of, to people who are working, our police officers, nurses, so on. And of course, the very wealthy, who can basically take care of themselves. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know I appreciate you bringing up, and also inside our packet, the information shows me that there is some reticence here, and that makes me uncomfortable. All right, that's all I had to say.
Any other comment? Councilman Tonneson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So David, all of the TIs, rental services, repairs, et cetera, that's all done through them, the exposure to the city for any type of damage that could occur, that's all on the applicant?
Correct. That'd be on CSCDA as the owner. There's no specific financial or legal risk to the city. One of the things that CSG points out, and that a couple of other staff reports that have been put out by cities around the state point out, is, let's say, and I'm just going to use some hypotheticals here, let's say 10 years from now, 12 years from now, there's issues, lack of maintenance, some of these types of things at the property. Certainly, because our name is somewhat tied to this with the public benefit agreement, there's a high likelihood that residents are going to come to the city expecting, some, answers, some assistance. Now, as a member of the JPA, certainly we can go to CSCDA and request that they, change management companies, but that's all, ultimately there's nothing we have that would be any sort of legal lever in order to force any change in that way.
But we can keep an eye on things.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit concerned, David, about the 4% annual rent increase. How can people who are on limited incomes possibly rent an apartment or any other dwelling unit with knowing up ahead that they're going to be paying a 4% increase potentially?
So the way their structure operates is 4% is the maximum increase that someone could see. So under this program, it would allow them to raise rents upwards of 4% per year, so long as it doesn't then exceed 35% of a household's income. Now that again is an area that's a little bit different from traditional affordable housing, particularly the units that are below 80% of area median income. More traditionally in affordable housing, that's capped at 30% of income, so that there's a little bit of extra, capacity, financial capacity for those families in terms of the amount of rent that they pay.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Clerk, do we have any request to speak cards?
I don't have any on this item. Brian, do you have anyone on hold for this item?
I'll go ahead and check in. If anyone on Zoom would like to provide comment on this item, feel free to use the raise your hand feature. And I don't see any at this time, so there are no comments via Zoom.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
Council, my name is James Hamill. I'm Managing Director with CSCDA. Just want to address your question real quick, Mayor Price, on that issue is rents right now in California, depending on where you are, in a market rate environment are going up between 8 to 17%. And if you're in Orange County, it's 17%. San Jose, it's closer to 9%. So if you're in a market rate facility, it's going to go up whatever the market dictates, whereas this locks it in at the 4%, so that even though it is going up on an annualized basis, it locks it in at that, so you're not the fluctuation of what the market is dictating out there, which in California, it's a little ridiculous right now. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you for explaining that. I'm well aware of that, and I have rental units, but I would never, ever tell my tenants, your rent may go up 4% a year, because they
Understood.
prices themselves out of it very quickly. Thank you.
Right.
Any other?
Mic is off.
I'm sorry. Entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2021-284. Been moved by Councilman Tim. Is there a second, please? Second. And the Vice Mayor is the second. Roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk. Well, we don't need the roll call, but go ahead, please. All
Is
in
it
favor?
unanimous?
Yeah.
You can roll call if you want. That's your call,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, okay, roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Councilmember Bertani?
Yes.
Councilmember Moy?
No.
Councilmember Tim?
Yes.
Councilmember Tonneson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Vaccaro?
Yes.
And Mayor Price?
Reluctant, yes. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We turn now to item number 22, please.
Thank you. Item 22, Resolution 2021-285 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield approving the appointment of a director and alternate director from the City of Fairfield City Council to serve on the Marin Clean Energy Board of Directors, or Resolution 2021-286 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield approving the designation of a director and alternate director from another party to represent the City of Fairfield on the Marin Clean Energy Board of Directors. And our presenter is Corey Beavers, Public Works Management Analyst.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Corey Beavers, and I work as a management analyst for the Public Works Department. The item before Council in this public hearing requires City Council deliberation and action regarding appointment to Marine Clean Energy, MCE, Board of Directors. In December 2019, the City Council directed staff to enter into a memorandum of understanding with MCE to allow the City of Fairfield to join MCE's service program. As a member of the municipality of MCE, the city is entitled to a voting seat on the MCE Board of Directors. Tonight, I will briefly discuss what has transpired since the city entered the MOU with MCE, as well as describe the actions the City Council may act upon tonight regarding the appointment of MCE's Board of Director. For the sake of time, I won't delve too deeply into what has already transpired, but as a quick refresher and introduction from some of our newer council members, MCE is a local not-for-profit public agency that offers renewable energy to its customers. MCE is a community choice aggregator, or CCA. CCAs are programs that allow local governments to procure power on behalf of their residents, businesses, and municipal accounts from an alternative supplier while still receiving transmission and distribution service from their existing utility provider, in this case PG&E. MCE gives PG&E electric customers the choice of having some or all of their electricity supplied from renewable resources. In December 2019, City Council passed Resolution 2019-288 and directed staff to enter into an MOU with MCE to allow the City of Fairfield to join MCE's service program. In November 2020, MCE's Board of Directors approved Fairfield's membership through their own Resolution 2003. And then in March 2021, the California Public Utilities Commission, or CPUC, formally accepted MCE's implementation plan to include the city of Fairfield, and the city officially became a member of MCE. Since the city's official enrollment, MCE and city staff have begun formulating a community outreach plan to prepare for MCE service starting in April 2022. This community outreach plan details how MCE will engage with the local community and make residents and businesses aware of the transition to MCE service. Engagement will include community meetings, compliance letters, social media outreach, and events. MCE and the city will begin outreach later this year and early Q1 2022. So changing pace just slightly, MCE is a joint powers authority governed by a current 30-member board of directors comprised of one elected council member or supervisor from each of its member communities. Each jurisdiction appoints an elected official to represent their community. In addition to the city of Fairfield, other Solano County jurisdictions currently enrolled in MCE and on the board of directors include the city of Vallejo, who is represented by Katie Meisner, the city of Benicia, who is represented by Tom Campbell, and the county of Solano, who is represented by John Vasquez. The board of directors generally meets on the third Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. to determine policy and administrative decisions. Due to COVID-19, board meetings are currently being held virtually and will be for the foreseeable future, but previously meetings were held in MCE's offices in San Rafael and Concord. As stated, as the newest member MCE, the city of Fairfield is entitled to a voting seat on the MCE board. Section 4.2 of MCE's joint power agreement specifies the appointment and removal of directors to the MCE board. The entirety of Section 4.2 is included in your agenda report, but to summarize, the city council has two possible actions they may take regarding MCE board appointment. The city council may, 1, adopt a resolution selecting a director, an alternate director from the Fairfield City Council to sit on the MCE Board of Directors, or 2, alternatively adopt a resolution designating its representation to another member of MCE that has a director and alternate director already represented on the MCE Board, provided that the member is within Solano County. And again, those cities would include the city of Vallejo, city of Benicia, and Solano County at this time. Staff has prepared resolutions for either of these two actions. The City Council can deliberate on which action they would like to pursue. Either option is allowed, and neither staff nor MC has a preferred option. In addition to these two actions, the City Council may always postpone board appointment at this time so that staff can provide further information. This concludes my presentation. I am joined with Sebastian Kahn with MCE. He's joined virtually, so if you have any questions, either myself or Sebastian can answer at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Comments or questions? Anybody interested in volunteering? Oh, bless you. Okay, you're making it very easy, so thank you very much, both of you. I really appreciate that. Entertain a motion then to approve?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you need to ask for public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting so excited here.
I don't have any requests to speak. Did anyone want to speak on this item? And Brian, is there anyone on Zoom?
We have no request via Zoom.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have two volunteers. Entertain a motion to approve. It's been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilwoman Moy. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And thank you both very much for doing that. Two experienced folks. That's great. Wonderful. Thank you.
And that was for Resolution 2021-285.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We turn now to public hearings. Item number 23, please.
Public hearing and first reading and introduction of ordinance 2021-22 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield amending the zoning map of the City of Fairfield to designate the zoning of the North Texas Street teardrop parcel as regional commercial CR consistent with the Fairfield General Plan. And our presenter is Dave Feinstein, our planning manager.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Price, members of the council. Dave Feinstein, Planning Division Manager. For the next item, City Council will be asked to take the actions needed to apply zoning to a piece of property that actually does not have any zoning on it at the moment. I'll show you the property. So the site that we're looking at it's going to be a portion of a site that informally we refer to as the Teardrop. It's a triangular piece of property that's partly developed right now, bounded on the west, or I'm sorry, on the north by Interstate 80, on the east by Manuel Campos Parkway, and on the south by North Texas Street. So it's a little triangular piece of property there. A portion of this site does not have any zoning, up there in that upper corner right there. And the way this property came to be is that originally it was a part of Caltrans right-of-way, and as you may recall, about 10 years ago, the city did a big infrastructure project up in that area, rearranged the road locations, constructed a new overcrossing of the freeway at that location, and as a part of that, certain portions of the Caltrans right-of-way that used to be part of the off-ramp for the freeway were no longer needed, and that property came over to be owned by the city. However, no zoning was applied to that property. At that time, properties that are Caltrans right-of-way don't have zoning on them, and 10 years ago, no zoning was applied when that property came to the city. So tonight, we're looking at asking the City Council to apply zoning to this property. So when we do that, the guide for what zoning to apply comes from our general plan. The purpose of zoning, or one of the purposes, is to actually implement the general plan. And so we take a look at what does the general plan say for this site, and that little area right there is in that purple color, which is our highway and regional commercial general plan designation, and it's intended for uses that will draw folks from around the region or to have uses that take advantage of the location next to the freeway. So we have a zoning district called Regional Commercial, and it's been set up specifically to implement the Highway and Regional Commercial General Plan designation. And so we are recommending that the City Council tonight take actions to apply that regional commercial zoning to that upper corner right there. It's about 1.3 acres. And it's similar to the CR zoning, the regional commercial zoning, on all of the surrounding properties. So with that, we are recommending that you hold a public hearing for this item and conduct a first reading of ordinance 2021-22, which would establish the regional commercial zoning for this property. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Vice Mayor, you had a comment or question? No. Councilman Tonneson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, what can fit there?
In terms of the kinds of uses, sure. So under the CR zoning, again, it's uses that tend to take advantage of the location near the freeway. Could be hotels, restaurants, offices, gas stations, a wide range of retail kinds of uses, auto
And
dealers.
what is the topography of that, or the usability? How much is that 1.5 acres?
So the 1.5 acres, or 1.3, is the actual site. It's actually only a portion of that site. Other pieces of property within that area already have zoning, so it's only a little subset of that. There's a field essentially there. If you go up there right now, it's flat. It's fully developable. The city already has an agreement with a developer, should this zoning go into place, for a hotel and restaurant to be located on that site.
Really? So the ingress egress there is going to be, because it's a little choppy right there now anyways, when you're just jumping right off of the freeway.
Yeah.
Will that be addressed? I'm sure you guys have.
There is currently, and you can't see it on this exhibit really well, there's actually a driveway cut already on the site from North Texas Street.
And is it excess land now? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
And we have buyers interested?
We have buyers interested.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. All it needs is the zoning to be consistent with the general plan.
Thank you.
Comments or questions for David? Okay. I will open the public hearing. Anyone choosing to speak on this item should do so now. Madam Clerk, do you have anyone?
I don't have any speaker cards. Did anyone wish to speak on this item? Brian, do you have anyone online?
And we have no requests to speak via Zoom.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make the motion on that, Mayor.
Okay.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Tonneson, seconded by Councilman Tim.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you want to close the public hearing?
No, I'm sorry?
Just close the public hearing.
Yeah, close the public hearing. Have a motion and a second? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 24, please.
Item 24, public hearing and resolution 2021-287 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield initiating a planned development overlay zoning, PD 2021-001, for the Green Valley 3 apartment project, and our presenter is David Gassaway, Assistant City Manager.
Yeah, hello again, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Item before you is consideration to initiate study of a planned development zone for an apartment complex here in town over off Business Center Drive. So by way of just a little bit of quick overview, the proposed project would be a 268-unit apartment complex. It'd be a 4-story building surrounding on almost all sides a 5-story parking structure. The density of that project exceeds what is currently allowed by our zoning, and so the applicant, which is AG Spanos Companies, they currently are building the Green Valley 2 and previously built, I believe, the Verdant property. They are interested in applying a development overlay, a planned development overlay zoning in order to accomplish this project. And so because the current zoning does not allow for housing development, the PD overlay ends up being an alternative that exists within our municipal code that allows for these types of uses that are outside what is otherwise typically zoned. And really allows some flexibility and creativity. Again, I want to reiterate, the item before council tonight would simply be authorizing our ability to initiate study. So doing the CEQA document, doing our traffic analysis, air quality, noise, determining whether or not their proposed project would meet design standards, and all of that information is all you're authorizing. The item before you is not authorizing a project, it's not approving a project. After study of the PD overlay zone, this project would still have to go back through, it'll have a full environmental impact report, it'll have to go back through Planning Commission as well as City Council in order to do any project approvals. So I just want to make real clear, we're only asking if you want to study this potential project and the PD overlay to get there. So just to orient you, the proposed location is off of Business Center Drive, basically right at the termination of Nitzel Road, near the intersection of Green Valley Road. In front of it right now is a hotel that's being developed that is under construction right now. Why a PD overlay? Well, the PD overlay ultimately is intended within our municipal code to provide, like I said, flexibility and creativity for projects that otherwise wouldn't be allowed by the underlying zoning that may have some rigidity to it. And so within the potential actions that would go in the future with the PD overlay zone in order to allow the type of project that they want to do. Right now, it actually not only does the current zoning not allow for housing, but we currently don't have zoning that would go to the density at which Spanos is looking to do. Now, as we've heard, particularly with the general plan update process, there's interest in density, there's interest in adding housing within existing built Fairfield. So there's I think interest in seeing if this project can come together. In order to accomplish it, we would have to do basically 3 actions. In addition to approving a PD overlay, there would have to be in effect a mixed-use zone created and placed over a rezoned parcel that would be residential very high density. Our residential very high density goes to 32 units per acre. The project they're proposing would be 46 units per acre. Under our municipal code, section 25.28.6D, there is a requirement at the initiation of any PD overlay zone that other alternatives be considered. So from staff's preliminary review, there would be 2 options available to City Council in order to consider any future actions on this parcel or this potential project. One would be a density bonus. Under state law, we we have adopted density bonus, so if they provide affordable housing, then they can increase the amount of density on that site. It would be a pretty substantial amount of affordability they would have to provide at that project. And so when we've raised that as a potential alternative with the developer, that was something that they said would make the project financially infeasible because of the costs associated with their development. The other alternative that we came up with would be to handle this property and any potential rezone through the general plan update process. Obviously we had a conversation about the general plan a couple weeks ago. Council was interested in doing some more workshops and having more conversation about all of the different alternatives that were presented at that time. So realistically, we're probably, a year, more likely 14, 15 months out from the general plan process. And when we discussed that with the project applicant, that was a time frame that they weren't necessarily interested in waiting, 15 months and then initiating the process to get their entitlements. So, as the applicant, they wanted to proceed with pursuing this PD overlay. This item went to Planning Commission on October 13th. The Planning Commission, on a vote of 5-1, in effect tabled it, and so the applicant then requested that it come to City Council. It's not necessarily a formal appeal under this section of the code, but it acts as one in effect. So again, the recommendation would be to approve Resolution 2021-287, authorizing study of the project only. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Have any comments, questions for David?
Only
Speaker, Vice Mayor?
comment would be, I think there's a lot of people that want to speak, so
Yeah.
we should probably
Yeah.
have them comment
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
Okay. I will open the public hearing then.
Our first speaker is Jay Banks.
Good evening, Council. I just moved into the area in August. I came from Dallas to Santa Rosa, was an apartment there for about 6 months, then moved to Fairfield, bought a house right here. In August, when I moved here, I saw the sign there on, Sassoon Valley Road saying, prime office real estate for lease, call us. And then they started putting apartment, so I essentially bought here because I saw this is an upcoming area where you've got jobs coming in and everything else. But when I saw that they were having balconies put on, then I realized, well, we've got apartments coming in here. What does that mean? Well, let's see, 280 apartments, you double that for the number of cars. Then coming from an apartment myself, I know that in order to afford apartments, people are packing up 2 to 3 families and 2 to 3 apartment with 2 or 3 apartment rooms for the apartments. So it's really, I couldn't even park. We have 1 car, and we couldn't even park up there in Santa Rosa because there are so many cars in this area. And then if you consider that this one that's on the corner of Business Center and what is it?
Nitzel.
Yeah, so it's the new one they're building. You're thinking, you double the number of cars, because most apartments usually have 2 cars, even if they're 1 unit. You can almost triple the number of cars. You can add, there's going to be services coming in there. There's going to be there's going to be visitors, there's going to be deliveries, everything else going in there. That's going to put in another about 1,000 daily just for that one. Now, what these folks are proposing, and Spanos, in case you folks don't know, they own they own the San Diego or LA Chargers. They're huge. And so they come here and they're trying to tell us what's best for our city, and packing a bunch of people into an area so small on such a small road, and we're talking about another 1,000 cars being packed in back there behind that new hotel that's going to have hundreds of cars. And what are they doing to those people? They're not really caring about Fairfield. They're not interested in how they're packing people into sardines. They're talking about efficiency. Well, when we use efficiency in my business, it's about the bottom line. It's about increasing the bottom line.
Would you conclude?
Yes. So my point is that this is a money grab. This is just a way for you to come in here and take the take advantage of the city council and say, we're doing this efficiency, we're trying to keep urban sprawl down. Well, I bet none of them are living in apartments. I know Dean Spanos doesn't live in apartments to keep urban sprawl down. I doubt he's having people having apartments built in his neighborhood. But my bottom line is that just say no to even letting them go on to the next point of being able to get an impact study on this. Just make them show how well this new apartment complex is doing. 75% capacity, how much traffic volume comes before they even
Thank
get
you.
to do that.
Thank you.
Be high-fiving each other if they get this deal. So, thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Debbie Tavy, to be followed by Carol Chervinko.
Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Vaccaro, members of the council, and city staff. I'm Debbie Tavy, and I am speaking on behalf of the Fairfield Sassoon Chamber of Commerce, which represents over 800 businesses, ranging from large to small. Solano County housing market is booming, as you all know, but like the state, we have been experiencing a severe housing shortage, and industry experts don't see it changing anytime soon. From a business perspective, we need housing to retain existing businesses and to recruit new businesses. Higher density development helps attract new businesses and to recruit new businesses. Higher density housing helps attract new employees. Employers want to be where their workforce is rather than trying to attract workers that will have to commute. A big part of Fairfield's success is to be business friendly. For that to happen, we will need somewhere for our workers to live in our community. Infill development increases revenue to the city. Infill development in unused lots create vibrant, tax-paying, and revenue-generating parts to the community. We always talk about wanting more retail, but in order to justify that, you will need rooftops to support it. As David Gassaway said in his presentation, this is only a study on the project to see if it is feasible. That means an EIR, traffic study, etc., will be done. Once we get the facts from those studies, then we can decide if the project is best for our community. Again, the City Council is not deciding today on whether or not to entitle the proposed project. It is simply to initiate a study so we can decide whether or not it is good for our community. Therefore, on behalf of the Fairfield Sassoon Chamber of Commerce, I respectfully ask that the City Council to vote yes on the initiation of the study on Green Valley 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Carol Chervinko, to be followed by Anna Patero.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and others, I ask you respectfully to not vote on this and not to go forward with any plans on researching whether this is a feasible project or not. Firstly, under section 25.28, you must apply special circumstances to justify the change of the base zoning district regulations. It must be creative, it must be imaginative, and superior under any other conventional zoning standards. I would not call putting higher density than what a law would require to be creative or imaginative. Also, it's supposed to promote a more economic and efficient use of the land by allowing a variety of housing choices. We already have verdant Vines on the 80, Bridgeport Ranch, and now the new 4-story by Spanos. It's supposed to also safeguard the environment and enhance the aesthetics. If anyone has recently gotten off on Green Valley Road, you tell me what the aesthetics look like. The street is named Business Center Drive in the Green Valley Corporate Park. Business and corporate. It is not Residential Drive, it is it is Business Center Drive. There will be a single driveway that's shared between the hotel and the apartment building. This would create not only a traffic design, but also a very hazardous condition. Should there be a fire, should there be an earthquake, for the hotel and the residents to get out safely. The 4-story Spanos is very tall. They now want to build an additional story that they claim is 3+ feet for parking that's going to be in the center of this apartment building. I don't call that creative or imaginative either. What kind of views are going on right now at the new Spanos? They have views of I-80, they have views of a wall across the street, and they have views of streets. What kind of residents do you think will want to be attracted to such apartments? By building more apartments, Fairfield will remain a bedroom community. We heard from the Planning Commission, we don't want to be known as a bedroom community, but we will by continuing to build these higher riser apartments. So let's change the face of Fairfield. Let's not be a bedroom community. And again, I ask that you do not vote on this. At the Planning Commission, they actually passed on this. They did not table it. Thank you.
Next speaker, Anna Patero, to be followed by Nora Deason.
Good evening again. I would concur with the former speaker. I also would like to state that when you voted to build those apartments right there in Green Valley, we were, if I'm not mistaken, we were sure that there was going to be a fire station that was supposed to be built there. We haven't heard anything about the fire station. There's also the Sassoon Valley Road right there, that big empty space. I've lived here for 18 years. Nothing has been done to that space in terms of building businesses. And as she said, this is supposed to be a business park. We already have those 400 apartments that are going to be there. Something I'd like for you to take into consideration. Nelda Mundy, Rodriguez High School, and Green Valley, those classes are overcrowded. There are upwards of 30 to 34 students in one class. That's not good for education. It's not good for our students. There's going to be more students coming into those apartments. Second, again, with the fire station. And third, hopefully, if you do the study, to take into consideration how much revenue, how much money we're going to get from the infrastructure act that just passed, if that would help to expedite the on-ramp from Sassoon Valley Road to 880, to I-80, because that was one of the considerations for the last apartment. Somebody said it was going to take until to 2030 to build that on-ramp to 80 from Sassoon Valley Road, because we are packed there. It takes 7 minutes just to get from where I live, the ranch, to 80, and that's on a good day. So take that into consideration. Parents driving up and down Green Valley Road are taking 45 minutes just to get from one end of town, from one part of town, Green Valley, just Upper Green Valley to Green Valley Middle School to Rodriguez High School. 45 minutes just to drive on that little tiny road. So please take into consideration and don't do this study. We already have apartments. Let's start building, Mr. City Manager, more businesses there instead of homes. Thank you.
Nora, to be followed by Diane Segarra.
Mayor Price, City Council members, I hear that there's an emphasis here that this is just a study. But you know, there are so many projects under construction at the Green Valley Corporate Park. Spanos is still constructing the Green Valley 2 apartments, 281 units. It will not be completed until 2023. It's going to take some time to have that filled up, so we might not know what the real traffic impacts are until 2025. The first Panettone industrial building is being constructed. There will be 3 of those in total. We have no idea what the impacts of the heavy truck traffic will be. There is a 104-unit residence inn, which will begin construction soon. We have no idea what the traffic impact will be. Our schools are at capacity now, and no new schools are being built. How is it possible for a study to be conducted when the data needed for the study is not going to be available until 2025 or later? The only way such a study could possibly be conducted is that it is theoretical. Are we going to see skewed numbers to support the developer? Is Fairfield having a financial crisis? I ask because these types of strange types of requests kind of show desperation. You know, you agreed to listen to the residents when it came to the general plan update. You said no to the steamrolling that was attempted. We appreciate that, and we are looking forward to those workshops and having an honest dialogue with you. Well, please do the right thing here also. There is no way a study could be based on reality. It's just not possible. So please reject this Spanos high-density apartment project. There is no study that can be conducted unless it's based on fiction. Please say no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Diane Segarra, to be followed by Brenda Nicolai.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I ask that you not approve to go forward with the planning for this project. The area currently has apartments under construction as well as a warehouse. Both these construction sites are unfinished, but will significantly add to the traffic volume already on congested freeways, intersections, and surface streets. A better use of this land, if residential is what is needed, would be senior housing or townhomes, which would be an entry level into the housing market. The impact would be minimal compared to high-density apartments. Green Valley is lacking in shopping areas, service areas, transportation options, and adequate police presence. I work at the local elementary school, and it took 15 minutes for our police to respond to an incident recently at our school. Our school is almost at capacity, and with the return of students from Virtual Academy, the 400 planned homes in Middle Green Valley, and the apartments currently under construction, we don't have any room for additional students. I see nothing positive from this project, just more traffic and a negative impact to local schools. As a city, you need to do better and build smarter for the residents of Green Valley. Follow the Planning Commission and vote no to this project.
Thanks.
Brenda Nicolai, to be followed by Georgina Ricky.
Mayor, council members, my name is Brenda Nicolai. I'm a resident of the Green Valley Lakes neighborhood, 2 blocks from the proposed parcel. I am here today to recommend the council to take into consideration 2 points regarding this proposal. Impact to the traffic in the immediate area, as well as concern about safety measures due to fire and a potential earthquake. Let's be honest, traffic in the immediate area is horrendous and does not even include the impact of the new apartments. Rezoning this parcel to residential and adding 268 apartments adds almost 500 cars to the immediate area. At the Planning Commission meeting, a commissioner asked the Spanos representative if the apartments would be affordable enough for local residents to afford, such as teachers, firefighters, etc. The representative stated the pricing of the apartments would be market rate, which means the price would only be afforded to those who work outside of Solano County, and not our current residents who want to upgrade to nicer housing or need to have housing in general. Why are we supplying outside residents housing and cannot supply housing for current residents? Fairfield needs to provide housing for current residents, but this spot in the Green Valley Corporate Park is not the spot to do this. Look at the plans that Spanos has submitted. 5-story parking garage, 4-story tall apartments towering over an existing neighborhood. We will see the immediate impact of additional cars and traffic immediately at the 2 traffic lights just before at Green Valley Road and Business Center Drive, trying to get to the freeway. Did you know the intersection at Green Valley Road and Business Center Drive takes approximately 3 to 4 minutes to fully cycle through? Minimum 45 seconds per each light. How do I know this? I sat at the light at 4 p.m. a Sunday evening and did a stopwatch of how long it took to cycle through the lights. I'm assuming during peak hours, peak times of morning, lunch, and evening during the weekdays, it's even longer. Also, I did not factor the light just before the big Business Center Drive intersection, which is Nitzel Road, at that light to be, as it's time to turn green when the Business Center Drive light turns green. Please note, I live 1 mile from Safeway and Costco in the Green Valley Lakes neighborhood, and I ride my bike to the Costco. It's faster for me to ride my bike or walk to the Safeway than it is for me to drive. It actually, to find parking, and it's not even safe for me safe for me to ride my bike. I've almost got hit twice because of the stoplight there and the pedestrian crossing has just hit by a car last weekend.
Would you conclude, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
My last point, in the past 5 years, we have been under evacuation warning every fire season. Tell us what happens if we have another mass evacuation. How do we get out of the immediate area if there's a fire and ash following behind us, and there are 5 stories of 500 additional cars trying to evacuate the small little space flooded into the intersection? With that said, I'm asking the City Council not to move forward with this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Georgina Ricky, to be followed by Sonia Medina.
Good evening, Mayor Price and the rest of my city council members, okay? And our staff over here that's appointed, I believe, by all of you, okay? So I came up here and moved into Green Valley 26 years ago. This is my home. And when I got here, it was beautiful. There wasn't even a grocery store or anything. I had to go clear up to Waterman. And I did that for several years until Costco came. Then they put, Safeway, and oh my God, I was so excited. That Safeway store is the worst store in the world. And if you put another 5,000 people in that area, have you ever seen a store run out of milk and eggs? That one does, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And this other complex and it used to be so pretty to drive. Now all you're going to see is those enormous, ugly, I don't even know what they are, apartments, and they're orange right now. I have no idea what color they're going to be later. And then there's that big, huge warehouse that I believe is Amazon. No, I don't know what it is, but whoever that is, it's going to make a lot of traffic too with all those big trucks coming in and going and all that. And it takes me from Pavilion Court and Mangles just to go to the grocery store 10 minutes. To go 1 mile, maybe 1.5 miles. And you're wasting your time and money if you go ahead with this project, because I think you guys will be sorry. It's a hazard for our health. And yeah, we don't even have a Fairfield fire department out there as far as I know. They come from Cordelia, So what is this all about? You guys want that much money put back in the city for this stuff? If this place wants it, make them pay to make the roads wider, build another school, and get out. But stay out of Green Valley, because it's going to turn into nothing but a cement mongrel. Thank you, and don't vote on this.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sonia Medina, to be followed by Mary Burzik.
Good evening.
evening, Mayor and the council people. I'm here also to encourage you not to go forward with this study. You really don't need to make a study. It's really plain. There's really so much traffic now as it is. And we're going to get new people from the new apartment building that are going to add to traffic. We have the warehouse that adds to traffic, and it's just going to be a mess. I also am concerned, like other people have voiced, that if there is, we have been, every fire season, we're always on alert that we might have to evacuate. Our whole section, I live, on Pavilion, off of Pavilion on Tapestry, and it's close to quite a few areas that at other times have been evacuated or have had notice of evacuation. And you imagine all these people, they're already from Green Valley, from Sassoon Valley, have only one way out to go to the freeway. And that freeway, there at Business Center and Green Valley Road intersection is terrible at the moment. You have to go through there to go across the freeway if you want to go up towards Fairfield. You have to go there to go towards San Francisco. You have to pass there to go to 12. You have to go over the freeway to go to 680. It's right now being overused. It was improved. We spent many years waiting for the improvement. There was construction there for about 3 or 5 years, trying to improve and enhance it. And what do we get? We get one lane that goes over the freeway. That's it. To go to Cordelia, and we get all these trucks that are going up and down that road. And in the morning, you have people that are commuters that are trying to get on the freeway. You have people trying to go to school. And it's a terrible mess, even in the evening. When you come home, it's a terrible mess. And also, I have to say, we have to consider the fact that there's really very little public transportation available to say that you can use public transportation. We have really just, we're talking about Safeway, and Costco brings in a lot of people.
And
but
would
we
you
only
conclude,
have
ma'am?
Costco. So
Would
we
you
have
conclude,
very
please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, just to say that there isn't anything to support more people. We have schools that are overcrowded, and I really would urge you not to go ahead with this study. Thank you.
Next is Mary Burzik, to be followed by Lisa Earl.
Good evening, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Vaquero, and council members. My name is Mary Burzik, and I'm the current president of the Green Valley Landowners Association. I'm here tonight to ask you as well to vote no on proceeding with the study. I think we should think about the study as the foot in the door, because a foot in the door means then the next time there's a hearing, it will be, well, you've already given us approval to do X, therefore we should be doing Y. We've already expended our monies to do Z, therefore we should be allowed to proceed on A, B, and C. We have some very serious concerns about the traffic and fire safety impacts that this proposed development would create for the entire area, all the way up Green Valley Road, all the way across east on Rockville Road, all the way to Sassoon Valley Road. That's actually the area that the Cordelia Fire Protection District protects us. And they protect us by driving straight up Green Valley Road from across the freeway, it's 2 miles south of the freeway, across and through that very intersection that everyone here tonight has talked about, Business Center Drive and Green Valley Road. We're hearing repeated stories about 30 to 45-minute waits at those lights, and that's for people to get to a job, whether it's in the city, to get their kids to school, or to get onto the freeway to commute to their jobs. That can't be sustainable. with 281 apartments coming in down the road, one warehouse building starting, and we know that will be 24/7 truck traffic, semi-truck traffic, and another 2 industrial buildings coming after that. We can't believe that the council can't see that it needs to take a pause on this. There's no way that this, as one of the former speakers said, there's no way that we can know what the future is going to look like until those projects are in place and working. One other thing to think about, which as we look at the plan and as parents, we are more or less horrified by the fact that this apartment complex will be in back of a commercial hotel. An apartment complex with 268 children, Fairfield Sassoon School District estimates 0.5 children per apartment. Therefore, it's maybe a little high, but that's about 120 children at least who are going to be crossing the hotel parking lot every day, whether it's walking to school, whether it's getting in a family car to be taken to school out of the 5-story garage. And that even begs the question, where will these kids play after school? Where is the safe space? The property is also right next door to an industrial zone property, which means that that's not a safe place for kids to play either. And it's bounded by the creek on the west side. So the concerns with this project are so immense, as I think we've heard already, not just traffic, fire safety, availability of the Cordelia Fire Protection District to protect the unincorporated homes north of Middle Green Valley all the way out Rockville. It's something that I think that we would like the council to take a pause on and to take a look and to think about this before proceeding further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Lisa Earle, to be followed by Douglas Smith.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Price and council members. I'm going to again echo what you've just heard in the past several speakers. I'm a Green Valley resident and I've been in this area since 1999. I too remember getting excited when we got a brand new Safeway, and I actually worked at the Fairfield Costco for a while. I remember when it only took a couple of minutes to get from Gold Hill Road to work at Costco. Now it takes a considerable lot longer. The schools are at capacity. There's just no reason why a study of, the study itself is just ridiculous to me. As Nora said, it would make a lot more sense to see what is going to happen with the existing high-density housing that's already underway. Please don't turn Green Valley, this beautiful rural and agricultural center, into a concrete mongrel, as was described earlier. The traffic situation is ridiculous. The fire, danger is real. I'm on the Green Valley Fire Safe Council. We've already done a lot of work and we're trying really hard to make it safer. This would undermine those efforts. Please learn from other cities that are more of like destinations. Like, why would you go to Walnut Creek? You want to go there for the shops and the restaurants and the choices. I don't feel like we have hardly any choices. We have a very single, a Safeway. Our choices are extraordinarily limited. We need jobs. It just feels to me like everyone that is living in this area has to commute in order to find a job. I think we really should be creating more jobs in the commercial spaces that are named Business Center Drive, and why are we not looking at putting in more choices and services? Please do the right thing. Please don't continue to destroy the rural character of Green Valley and Sassoon Valley. Please take the time to do what you said as far as working with the community and coming up with a balanced plan. And really thinking and getting all the things that we really need instead of just packing in more and more housing and more traffic and just ignoring the will of the people. Thank you so much.
Douglas Smith, to be followed by Eli Hefner.
Good evening, everyone. Public. You know, I'd like to direct the public's attention to our banner up here for Fairfield. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, it depicts a beautiful landscape of vineyards and hills. You're destroying it. You're taking that out of our city by continually trying to improve the Green Valley Cordelia area. Now, I understand we need room for growth, but high-density apartments on the corner of Green Valley Road and Business Center Drive is not a place to put them. And I want to mention, can you hear me now? The apartments that are being built right now, that 4-story monstrosity on Sassoon Valley Road and Business Center Drive, I looked at the traffic study report from the EIR on that. Every one of the intersections, Needsville Road, Sassoon Valley Road, Business Center Drive, Pittman across the freeway, that traffic study said that all of those intersections would be significantly, it used the term significantly impacted from that apartment complex that's currently being built. Significantly. Now, I agree with what has been said here, because we haven't seen the results of what's going on I gotta take this off, sorry, of what's happening right now, because those apartments are not finished, and we won't see the results probably for, 2 or 3 years. And I also want to mention to the young lady from the Chamber of Commerce that was here, ma'am, I hear your concern about the business, but I want to understand, over on Gold Hill Road, all of those homes that were built next to the freeway, that was supposed to be and zoned for community retail. You did another PD on that section too, and changed it to medium density housing. So these PD overlays that I hear about, I mean, this is really just subverting what the general plan is. This has to stop. We have a general plan coming out. Let's wait till it's complete. It's going to take time, but you know what? What is the rush?
And would you conclude, sir?
Yes, I know Spanos wants to get this done. He has an agenda, but it's impacting us, your constituents, okay? So please, one other item, I just want to say to the public, if this gets approved, the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to want to widen Green Valley Road and remove the median with all the beautification of the trees. That's the next step if they get this through.
Thank you.
Eli Hefner, to be followed by Jared Thompson.
Hello, Council. Hello, Council. Thank you for hearing from me. I agree with everything that my fellow citizens have said about traffic and about impacts on the schools and lack of services down where we live. But I just want to tell a little different story. My wife and I moved here 25 years ago. I was in graduate school at UC Davis. She was teaching in Novato, and I found this gem, Green Valley, right? It was like magic. I mean, I drove through Sassoon Valley, brought my wife up here and said, this is where we need to live, right? It's halfway from each of us. We actually didn't expect to stay. I thought I'd graduate, we'd move off. That's not what happened. We had kids. We started making connections. Kind of fell in love with the place, so we're still here. When we moved in, I carefully looked at the zoning in the area because I wanted to live in a semi-rural suburban setting. That's what I wanted, right? The zoning called for medium to low density housing where I was, and I looked very carefully along the freeway there. It said it was commercial. I thought, great, right? I guess I was naive. I didn't realize how easily these things could be changed. I consider that a bit of a promise. I consider the zoning kind of a promise. And I feel like to change something like that, you should have to ask our permission, right? You should have to come to us and we should overwhelmingly say, yes, we're okay with changing that. I don't hear that. I want to trust you guys to do the right thing. You know, we heard some real vitriol tonight, and I prepared my own set of vitriol I'm ashamed to say. And I took it back because you guys, I think you guys are trying to do the right thing. You're human beings. I want to afford you that respect. Please don't do this. We don't want this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jared Thompson? And I don't have any other speaker cards at this time, but we'll have to check with Brian for online.
Council members, Mr. Mayor, we missed you at the Nelda Mundy Fun Run this year. Very fun a couple of years ago when you were there. My kids enjoyed that. Just want to say it took me about 10 years to graduate between associate's degree in City College of San Francisco and Cal State East Bay, so I'm an expert on studying, and this one is not worth passing. Thank you.
We have one more speaker card, Glenn Gartley.
Good evening. You're all elected officials, right? Except you, you're appointed, and I understand you do not live in this county even, or not in the city? Okay, so you're all elected. I'm pretty sure every one of when you ran said, we want to listen to the people. Guarantee you put that somewhere in your promise. This is us speaking. Do not approve this. Don't do it. Unless one of you is getting paid off. Is that what's happening? Because that's what it sounds like. And I guarantee if you do approve this project, because that's what will happen if you do the study and then this and this and this, we'll organize and we'll shut down the construction site. Because that's what we need to do. Because if you're not going to do what we want you to do and don't approve this high-density crap in rural areas, we all live in rural areas because we want to. We don't live in a city. We live rural, and we want to keep it rural. I live in Cordelia, where I'm county. I can't even vote for you people. I can't get on this council. I can't do anything with Fairfield, but I have 1,000 cars a day drive down my road, 70% of them speeding. I live on Bridgeport Avenue. I have cars going 60, 70 miles an hour on a 25-mile-an-hour residential road. You people, by voting these things in, have turned my residential rural road into an on-ramp. That's all it is. That's all I've got.
Did anyone else want to speak? Okay. Oh. Did you want to fill out a card? Okay. Yeah, you can fill it out after.
My name is Rosemary Caraway, and I live out at the Lopes Gold Hill Road intersection, and I've been there since 1998. I bought my house in 1998 and moved in January of 1999. I'm just going to say two things. I called 911 last week because I left Costco and was headed up Business Center Drive towards the construction site, and 3 large trucks were parked in the driving lane as they were building with no notice that they were stopped. No notice. And when I drove, it was before the kids got out of high school. And I don't know if you've seen some of those high school drivers, but they need to pay a little bit more attention. So I called on that. So that road is busy enough already. I thought that orange monstrosity was a storage unit. I just found out tonight that it's actual apartments. Please say no. Please say no. It doesn't need a study. You already have the information you need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Brian, is there anyone on Zoom? Oh, sorry.
Yes, we do have some speakers on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there's one more in the audience that would like
certainly.
to speak.
I hope I speak.
Can I get your name, ma'am?
Lily Troop, T-R-O-U-P as in Paul, E.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me this, and to the council and the mayor of the city of Fairfield. I have moved to Fairfield from Oakland, California. 32 years ago, I've lived here in this area. And I have absolutely seen the change that has happened in those 32 years. Raised children here, they went to the schools. They're talking about people are moving from California. Nobody can stop that. We can't stop that. People are going to go where they want to go. But it's mostly a cost of living here and the money. What I have seen happen is surveys about traffic and how it will not impact that area at all. Well, guess what? It has impacted. Also, they talk about all of these apartments. If Spanos has 281 apartments they're building now, and they're saying they're going to build a fire department next door, and to my shock and surprise, I don't drive anymore. I'm over 25, and I've been blessed to live in a quiet neighborhood for 32 years, and that's what attracted me. And I'm not rich, and I got in. I was blessed to get in when the houses were under $200,000 32 years ago. And now at this point, I have seen the impact of what's going on with the development, and I hear about, yes, the schools are going to be impacted, but I don't hear enough about them. And let me say this real quick, and I know it's not on Fairfield's subject. A lot of people are leaving California. My youngest son moved to Texas because his company wanted him that bad. And he said, I'll go if you give me my California salary. They gave it to him. And he said, Mom, he said, we live in the town next to Frisco. I never heard of a Frisco, Texas. And he said, Mom, they build the schools first, and then they build the community around it. And he said, you know what, Mom? He said, they have, in his son's, I have one grandchild left with him. He has 2 grown adults. He said there are 14 to 15 students in each class. And he said, I said, what? Because I retired from the Oakland Unified School District. And that was not the case when I retired. And he said, Mom, there are 24 schools in that town, high schools, about the size of Fairfield. I said, what? And there are 43 elementary schools. And he numbered the middle schools. Anyway, it was more than 15.
Ma'am, would you conclude, please?
Okay. So what I'm asking is, after hearing others speak, I don't think I can impact any more than what they've said. Really consider what you see going on in Green Valley. I know it's always about money. And to my shock and surprise, I've seen a lot of development happen. And I've taken the Daily Republic for all these years, and I knew nothing about it. It was a shock when I saw it. So I'm asking that you please consider the people, the voice of the people, because we helped put you here. Yeah. You're not out here just because you were cute or whatever. We do have mixed ages in this group, but I'm saying, as a resident of the area for 32 years, and I've seen the impact of the traffic, and it's not a joke, I've lived it. Please don't just run over, like they said, concrete over the area. And I also understand, I'm going to lastly say, some of the people here may not know, there's talk of putting a school, don't know if it's elementary, middle, or high school, on the corner of Rockville Road and Suisun Valley Road. Now, what level, I have no idea. But anyway, again, please consider what you're talking about doing. And I think if this isn't this the 4th meeting, or is this the 3rd? Isn't this the 4th public hearing on this issue?
No, it's the first time
Okay.
it's come to city council.
Well,
Ma'am,
in any case, it's been more than two.
Yeah.
And to say that it's more than that,
Ma'am, your time is up, I'm
All
sorry.
right.
Thank you.
please,
Thank you.
please reconsider, consider. Thank you.
I see someone else in the audience that would like to speak. Can you state your names?
I'm Anita Robertson.
Anita
Okay,
Robertson.
I wasn't going to say anything because everybody, I would be echoing everything everybody else is saying. But I will summarize. I mean, Safeway is really bad. I don't go there anymore. I got excited too when it was first built. I've been here for 21 years. Got excited, loved the area, and it's really gone downhill. I can't tell you, even 5 years ago when I was driving my kid to Rodriguez, a 1-minute drive, literally from Green Valley Road to Business Center Drive, that little tiny span would take me 1 minute, but maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it got to take me 25. I mean, that's like nuts, right? But anyway, that wasn't what I was going to say. I'm just being redundant. My point is I do want you to consider something too, because money does talk. Okay, I live in Green Valley. I'm fortunate that, well, my husband and I like to eat. Let's put it this way. You can tell, but we like to eat. There's no place to eat. We would like to see more services, more things in Green Valley. Where do we spend our dollars? Napa. We go to Napa. Pre-COVID, honestly, pre-COVID, about twice a week, we would go to Napa for dinner. Because there is nothing here. You can only go to Sticky Rice so many times. You can only go to, it's true, it's so true. And, I love Barnes & Noble. Well, Amazon kind of sucks. It's taken that experience away. And I would love to have just things to do, nice places to meet in Green Valley. Don't build these things. The roads are they're really god-awful. Please don't do that. So we spend our money there. I'll give you an example. We'll go on a date to Napa. What will we do all the time? We'll stop at Home Goods in Napa, do our shopping there. Then, maybe we have an errand to run. Do we need anything at Home Depot? Yeah, we'll stop there and buy something too. Oh yeah, well, let's stop and get our kids In-N-Out. I have one kid that loves In-N-Out. We stop there. So we've done like 4 consumer things. We've spent money there in one shot at 4 different places because we live so close. So please consider putting different things in Green Valley Road. Because you know what, truthfully, I don't want to live there. And I've told my husband this for the last few years. I'm kind of really sick of it. So, and we're looking at Napa. I don't really want to live in Napa. I really want to live here. I want to enjoy wine country here, which, by the way, is really getting big. I'll tell you now, we do a lot of wineries in Napa and Sonoma. This area is really up and coming. You'd be very foolish to do anything except help it grow. And tourists, that's a big thing. Anyway, I'm babbling on.
Thank you.
Just know that, okay? Thank you.
Another speaker, okay.
Hello. I spoke last time, but there's
Could you state your name?
Oh, my name is Janet Bennix. And the one thing I haven't heard anybody say is there's nothing for children to do in Green Valley. I have grandchildren and I have great-grandchildren. When they're visiting me, which is often, I have to take them to Vacaville. I have to take them to Sacramento. I have to take them all kind of places. I'm old. I can't see at night. I don't drive at night. I gotta be close so I can get home before it's dark. Children need someplace to go. That space would be great. Don't put 1 million people on a needlehead. Make something that brings money into the city. Please, don't spend the money on that review. I'm sure it's gonna be millions of dollars for you to say, you're right, people, it's not working. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Ma'am, was it Janet Bennett? Oh, sorry. Anyone else? Okay, Brian, can you check on Zoom, please?
Yeah, certainly. We do have some speakers on Zoom. Our first speaker is Maureen Corder. And Maureen, feel free to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. I'm a resident of the Cordelia area for almost 10 years. I am opposed to rezoning commercial areas for high-density residential as there is not infrastructure to support high-density residential. This council heard just a few weeks ago from this community overwhelmingly against rezoning anywhere in our communities for high-density residential. However, before tonight's public comment, at least one city council member has publicly stated that they support the rezoning against our community's wishes. I'm left to wonder what the developer has offered to this and other members without the community's knowledge and behind closed doors, and why our community members must continually push back against such developments when you should have heard and respect our message from the last meeting. There is no infrastructure to support high-density residential, and there are no plans to create that needed infrastructure for the residents who are already here begging for it. We need more schools. We need better roads. We need services and businesses contributing to the community that already live here. We do not need or want more high-density residential in our community. Please focus your efforts and attention on serving the community members who have resided here for literally decades and who may decide to leave the area if you continually pack us in like sardines. We ask for more schools, improvements to roads and sewers, and the preservation of our open lands and resources. And I just want to second what everybody has already been saying about the fire danger that has overwhelmed our communities in the past several years. The Oakland Hills fire, I grew up with that. I watched as people tried to escape tiny little roads and were overwhelmed by flames. That is not something that you want Fairfield to be known for. Trust me. Please, please do not approve this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Monica Silva, and you're feel free to unmute.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Monica Silva. I live at the Sienna neighborhoods right behind the proposed development. And I just want to echo what everybody else has been saying about the fire concerns, the traffic. There's nothing for any kids to really do. There's no shopping that we have except for just that one small center with a not very well-equipped Safeway. We definitely need more infrastructure. We don't have a post office. We don't have a police hub. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes for any police to come to the area if there's any concerns. So having this much dense population without any type of infrastructure to support it is just negligent. And also, I just wanted to remind that the city council members that have been elected, please listen to the community. We are telling you that this is our firsthand experience. There's really no need for a study. We've given you all the evidence for the study. If it's, just to have someone with a degree to tell you, yeah, they're right. It's not money that's really well spent when we've already done the research for you. We've lived it. We know what this area is all about. We're telling you what it needs. So please, I understand that Spanos wants and has a right to an appeal, but appeal denied. We don't need it. Do not approve this study. So that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Cam Halsendorf. Cam, feel free to go ahead and stand by. We're going to add you on here so you can speak. Okay, and feel free to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Good evening, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Vicard, City Council, city staff, and everyone in attendance today. To the community members viewing from home, and in attendance. Greetings. My name is Cam, and that is Cam with a K. Thank you for listening. I have to stand with the residents of Green Valley on this one. You don't even need a study. You have firsthand surveys and references about real life in Green Valley. Guess what? And it was all for free. Just today, let me just follow up on some of the main concerns we've heard today. Traffic being egregious currently. No fire station in the community called Green Valley. Lack of resources to support more community members and such as expedient grocery stores. Two things I just want to add in: walkability, and think about our children. We do know children aren't going anywhere, right? The current walkability score in Green Valley is 44 out of 100. That means you need a car or some type of motor vehicle to get it around most of that community right there. So you need to, even if you try to ride that community with a bike, first off, we need to make sure, in the spirit of going green, we need to find ways that we're getting more different ways of transportation, making sure the roads have bike paths. But again, you would have to dodge different freight trucks, monster trucks, and even the most dangerous, a Prius, to even make it a safe way on a bike. So again, we are taking Fairfield into this new green energy saving route. We need to try to make roadways more accessible for bikes and people that want to walk, and also increasing the lighting safety around there, because those roadway cities do get a little bit dark. And thinking about the children, there's not really many things for them to do. You have so many schools around there. What are they supposed to do? Chill at Arby's? Dodge traffic at Center Drive? I mean, we need to look at places that teach our children to be civic servants and learn about civic values, help with mental health, and places where they can socialize safely with peers their age instead of grown folks' business sometimes. But Green Valley is a road rage community. We need to make sure that we take care of that community there. So you heard the main point loud and clear. It's the double F, which is Fairfield first. Listen to the residents, and I believe your diligence and your process. This is why we elected you. Do the right thing, like I know you will. Unlock the true potential of Fairfield by putting Fairfield first. Thank you for your time.
Yes, and before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to go ahead and remind our Zoom participants, if you'd like to speak on this item, feel free to use the raise your hand feature at this time. And so our next speaker is Michelle Dill. And Michelle, feel free to unmute.
Thank you. I didn't realize earlier that it was 2 hours too early to speak about this topic. I'm not going to repeat everything the neighbors have said, because I'll just say simply that I agree with all of the concerns about fire safety, overrun schools, bad traffic. But for me, and I wanted to focus on the Chamber of Commerce for Sassoon and Fairfield, their argument on bringing more businesses is that's a straw man argument. There's a lot of wealth in Cordelia, Green Valley, this part of Fairfield. I leave the city to shop as much as possible. I'm tired of going to our Safeway. So that's not a good argument. From a business perspective, which is how I kind of feel that council will end up voting on this, that's just not a good argument. Nobody delivers food here except, pizza places. You can't get any shopping done locally. You have to drive to Napa, to Vacaville, or worse, cross a bridge, which is ridiculous at this point. So if you want to have more business generated, then don't build high density apartments. Build stores, shops, and places for our kids to go. So those are the points I'd like to emphasize, while simultaneously agreeing with so many of our neighbors who have already spoken. Just say no to the study. You don't need it. And it would be the stepping stone to just allowing this to happen, and that would be a mistake for your votes next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
And we have no further requests to speak at this time. Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, you don't have any more requests to speak cards?
No, was there anyone else wanting to speak? No.
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back for council discussion and action, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. The recommendation is to approve Resolution 2021-287. Is there a motion to approve?
I'd like to ask David some questions. I mean, if somebody else wants to make a motion. You good, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
So David, when will the fire station be completed? Fire Station 36?
I believe by May or June of 2024. It's right adjacent to the Green Valley 2
Yeah,
apartment
right.
complex.
Traffic is obviously a concern. What is the alternate use? Is the alternate use the warehouse, that are going up across the street?
So, I mean, it is industrial business park zoning, so those are eligible uses that could go at that location, yes.
And do they require traffic studies too?
Correct.
I have some concerns about the ingress, egress, both sides of that hotel. I mean, both entrances. It looks like from the plans that you submitted tonight, it looks like there's going to be 2 entrances?
I believe so, yes. Through a joint, easement agreement on the one side, and then they have basically a parcel, flag lot going down.
And do you know if it's possible for the EIR to do results on both uses, or whatever uses are out there? Or would that be something that Spanos would have to pay extra for? Or, an EIR for an industrial use versus the apartment use?
I mean, they are different uses. They could do that, I suppose, study both options, but I don't know if Spanos is in the business of industrial development.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, please.
David, so who owns that land right now?
I believe it's Harvey Shine
Right.
is the owner.
So Harvey Shine is the one who built basically the warehouses, right? The walls that everybody's talking about?
Well, no, he entered into an agreement. It's Panattoni is the company
Panattoni.
that's building
So
those.
what would
correct?
stop him from doing the same exact thing in this lot?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, they could do the same type of project as Mr. Tonneson pointed out.
Okay.
Councilwoman Moy, please.
So I saw that there are a lot of people who thought that the Panattoni development out there, which is stark looking right now, that is or was going to be Amazon. And from what I understand, from what you all sent out to us, that's not so. We don't know who's going in there. Is that correct, or do we know?
At this point in time, we don't know. They're building that on spec.
On spec, okay. So going back to the property with Harvey Shine, that was property that we had, it was city property, yes?
A lot of that, I believe, was former redevelopment agency property that he then exercised options on to acquire.
Right. And so he does now outwardly own all of it?
I believe so, yes.
You're sure?
Not 100%, but I believe he does own most all of it.
You know? He does?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, as you just said, just to reiterate, is there any way that we could stop any more large buildings like that going up since it's zoned that way there? What would we have to do to stop all development out there until we see what's going on? What would it take what could we do? No, we can't, not if it's zoned.
Yeah,
We can't. No, you
if it-
can't. You can't, not legally.
You're dealing
where-
probably
where-
as much with a legal opinion on something like this for stopping something that is zoned and allowed. I mean, I defer to legal counsel, and I don't know if that's something you even want to touch right now.
Real quick, I will just say, I just confirmed with our planning manager, warehousing is a conditional use, so that is something that I believe could be denied, or at least put provisions in place at approval. It's a conditional use permit.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because I want to know myself, of course, but I want citizens to understand that when things are zoned a certain way, we don't get to say who gets to be there or not generally.
Not zoned for the PD overlay.
Excuse me, sir. No. I'm
Sir, you're out of order. Continue, please, Councilwoman.
Yeah, I hear you. But what I'm saying in general, since people say, why don't you put a restaurant there? The restaurants decide if they're going to come here. And how do they do that? I've gone over this a million times with them. Housetops, that's what they call them. And we know there are a lot of housetops out there. But anyway, I don't want to get into argument. I just wanted to see what we have control of and what we don't. And, and the Planning Commission also. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everything that folks have said. It's been, I listened to it before too with the Planning Commission tape, so I appreciate it.
Councilman Tim, please.
Yeah, thank you. I live in Green Valley. I've lived out there for 20 some odd years. I see the traffic. And I see that the traffic comes from new developments. Well, they're older now. All I want is information. That's all I want. You say we don't need the information. I would like the information. I would like the EIR. I'd like the traffic study. I'd like the noise study. Schools, I'd like the school study. That is through the school board. I think that you made valid points, and I see it, but I'm kind of a process-driven. We don't pay for the study. Spanos pays for the study, right? We don't pay. It's not a change in zoning. We might get the study and think, this is really bad, right? Don't deny us the ability to gather information, and then we can argue about it in a year, 2 years. I don't know how long this takes. And I'd leave you with one more thing is that over the general plan, and we kind of intermingled general plan and overlays. I don't disagree. And last 2 weeks ago, we talked what is rural and urban is urban. Just show me a study so we can then factually take it apart or agree with it or disagree. But that's all I want is I just want the study. Thank you.
Any other comments, colleagues? Councilwoman Panduro, please.
Thank you. So, being new and just, this is one of my first times that we're kind of going through this process as part of council up here. And I appreciate everyone's comments. I hear everyone that they spoke to. And I also had the same concerns when I met with Spanos. And, there is a question of, all the things that we talked about, but also we do need housing. We do need it. But I do have concerns like the traffic, the schools. I know affordability has come up, and I question that too, because like I've mentioned, and it's been mentioned before, right? And we talked about that because I know that individuals, because I asked who's gonna live here, and yeah, some people will be able to, people from inner Fairfield might not be able to afford it, but there might be some, newer families, people my age that might be able to afford it that are commuting into the Bay. So it goes, we need housing. And I think that we do need the information. I would want to see information. It's something that I'm going through the first time. And I do have family that lives out there, and I lived here my entire life. And so I'm down there often. I understand the traffic. I've sat in it myself. But I think that we need to we heard your concerns, but I think that we also need to, and you might say, oh, you guys lived through it, and we do too. But I think having the information, having the research done, we're not paying for it. It's getting done by someone else. We're not, I think that is, it's something that it allows us to move forward knowing and having factual information in front of us to make the best decision for the city. Thank you.
Sir, you're out of order. Sir, you're out of order. Public comment has ended. Thank you. Bertani, please.
Thank you for coming out tonight and for sharing your insights. I believe that having free information is a no-brainer. If somebody's going to pay for this study that gives us empirical data that we can use to analyze this issue, why would we not accept information? No, excuse me. Why would we not accept information that then we can then use to address this matter from a data-driven point of view? Because listen, you've heard me say it before, and I will say it again, that I share your frustration with us not doing a better job of having commercial and retail establishments in that area. I'm on the record for that. I agree with that. It's my suspicion that, well, you know, I'm not a predictor of data, but how could the data tell us otherwise, right? Than what you're saying, because I see it too. We all do. Chuck lives there. He sees it. So I say that I am with you in terms of wanting more commercial retail establishment. We have not done the best job that we can do. We haven't done a really good job, to be honest, because it's just not there. And it should be, and it's zoned for that. So I want to see the data. I mean, I have a hard time turning away data. So I say let's look at the data and let's look at the process that is initiated to obtain the data. I mean, I think Nora made, and some of you also, other than Nora, made a great point. How can we have data when we haven't seen these other projects play out? Like so I want to see how that's dealt with. Valid point. I get it, and I think we all do. But I think that we would all, at the end of the day, feel better about our decision if we have some data that we can look at and go through together. I know it's frustrating. I'm frustrated with you. We have a responsibility to everybody in the community. You know, we haven't heard from everybody in the community. So that's why data is essential to make a decision that can be based on empirical information. And that information, perhaps it can be questioned. Perhaps it'll prove your point. Perhaps it will show us a different direction. But whatever it is, we have to, for the sake of all of the residents in the city, we have to have some kind of rational basis to make this kind of a decision on. So I will say this, and I'm not splitting hairs. I will put this on the record again. Yes, I'll take the data, and at the same time, I am very frustrated and disappointed in our inability to get commercial retail and activities for our children out there in Green Valley. You're taking your disposable income and going to Napa. And guess what? So am I. It's the truth. I'm going to Walnut Creek to shop. It's the truth. You know, I don't know about the Safeway out there because, you know, I'm going to check it out. But I just want to encourage you that you have my word that us have the provision of this information is the fix is not in. There is no fix in terms of, I can speak for myself and I'm sure my colleagues on that. We want what you want out there. So let's work together. Keep coming to the meetings. Keep holding us accountable. But I am on the record. I promise you that I want to work with you and help you get more retail out there, because we need your disposable income in our general fund, not in Napa. You know, and you deserve it. That area deserves it. So we have to figure this out, and I'm committed to that process.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah,
Carl, please.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree with what Pam said about the study, but also somebody said earlier about, you know, if you take one footstep in the door, right? I'll go back 5 years ago to the Rockville Springs project, where everybody thought we were going to build that project, no doubt about it. You guys, you know, you're going to do it. It was 5-0 vote against it. So just because we're doing a study doesn't mean this is going to happen. I know, and there's a couple of people sitting in this audience right now who accused a couple of us of this. And guess what? We voted against it. So I think, you know, you really have to wait and see what it looks like and how we're going to act and to trust us on it. So, thank you.
Councilman Tim, please.
Yeah, and I don't usually respond to shouts from the audience, but sir, to answer your question, have we been through this before? We're going through it now. 281 unit apartment complex, One Lake.
One Lake's 190.
190, okay. Right next to easily $800-900 million homes. That's off Bandon. 77 units off of Santa Monica. 35% are going to be for homeless and very, very low income.
72.
72, okay.
But yes.
And I hit a golf ball 300 yards, okay. But yeah, we're going through that. And then you heard tonight, just in the last 6 months, and again, I figured high 1,000, but it was 700 apartments and a 2 or 3% vacancy rate. That's all well and good. And I would leave you with this, and what everybody here said is, the study can bear this out. You could be absolutely right. And I'll tell you, you're absolutely right about the traffic now, because like I said, I live there. But don't deny us the ability to actually look at the study, and then we can have a conversation from there. So, Mayor, thank you, sir, for letting me talk.
And let me make my observations and comments, please. The recommendation is that we approve doing the study. The study may or may not satisfy anybody's concerns, but not to do the study is to base decisions then upon something you don't know much about. So, and the Planning Commission has passed it on to council, which is the appropriate thing to do. So that's why we're doing this tonight. We're not deciding to approve a project. We're deciding to get the data so that we can make an informed decision on what is best for the city of Fairfield. I'm sorry, public comment is closed. Please understand that. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2021-287. It's been moved by Councilman Tim, seconded by Councilwoman Bertani. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll just get the study and then decide whether or not it should go forward. We go on now to... We turn to our final item, item number 25.
Item 25.
Madam Clerk.
Whoever pays for the study is going to have their study.
We're going to pack this place next time we come. Stay out of office if we talk to you. We're going to pack this room.
You're always welcome. Madam Clerk, please.
Public hearing and resolution of the City Council of the City of Fairfield terminating the existing location agreement and operations covenant agreement with Fairfield Automotive Partners, LLC, thereby terminating the sales tax sharing economic development incentive for BMW of Fairfield and approving a new location agreement and operations covenant with Fairfield Automotive Partners, LLC, providing de minimis fee, I don't know if that's an error, fee waivers as defined in California Labor Code Section 1720, and authorizing the city to reimburse developer for off-site public improvements, and authorizing and directing the city manager to execute all documents as necessary. And our presenter is our Assistant City Manager, David Gasway.
This item needs to be continued.
Yeah.
It was a notice
So-
published hearing.
So as we sent out the email, there's additional information that we're waiting for from BMW. They've been unable to get the information to us at this time, so we asked the council to continue this public hearing to the next meeting.
Moved by Councilwoman Moy, seconded by Councilman Tonneson. All in favor? Aye. There is no other business before this body. We are adjourned. Good night.